Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, and I am joined once again with JXEDITOR, and we're here to give our weekly reviews on Andor Season 2. First off, we kind of announced that we were going to do this on Wednesdays. We very quickly realized that it was going to be nigh on impossible to get all 3 episodes watched in a single day. So now we've moved it to Thursdays. I think it's just going to be a much better day for us. So catch us at like 10 p.m. I know that it's 10 past 10. It's fine. You got to allow us a little bit of, shooting the shit before we go live and, everything like that. We actually haven't talked about all the episodes that in depth. So we haven't really gauged each other's opinions.
I texted you right when you started. Yeah, I was like, listen, this is going to be like a mind bending, but what if we just don't talk about it until the stream?
Yeah,
because the amount of our streams that are dedicated to us saying, we were talking about this before the stream, but like I'd love one dedicated fan looking at you, SeaWorld, to go through and find every time we say that.
He'll do it. He'll fucking do it. Yeah, so this is going to be interesting because, I mean, this is a show where as soon as I watched it, I needed to talk about it. And I was like, I had to be so vague. So yeah, I think if we can stick to that and not talk about it, we get to save it for the stream and you get to hear our first time opinions on it, which is going to be great. We're going to be reviewing obviously the first 3 episodes that we've got. So 1 year later, Sagrona, Tima, and Harvest, that's the name of the first 3 episodes. But as they're releasing these in 3 episode chunks, which is both a blessing and a curse, as we mentioned last stream, and
it's a curse for us.
Yes, yeah, to get a stream out and to get them all watched, it is. But essentially, we get a new Star Wars movie each week. We get like a 3-hour Star Wars movie or just shy of it. And it is the most effective way to get these arcs out all in one go. So we're going to be kind of packaging them all together. Yeah, sorry.
I think the best way for us to put it was we asked for this. This is exactly what we wanted. And so in that way, Andor is our love. But now we have to watch 3 episodes. It's like immediately leading up to it. Like we've got to squeeze them in every single week, and in that way, it is our doom.
Yes, but I can think of worse dooms to be had. So we're not going to go like super insane in depth into season 1 and our opinions on that because, well, we did a stream last week about our opinions on series 1. Suffice it to say,
literally, so we didn't have to do that.
Yeah, suffice it to say, it's my favorite Disney Star Wars content that's been put out. I mean, it's a very, very low fucking
you've said nicer things than that. You've said much nicer things than that. No. Let's compare it to all of Star Wars. What was it you said last week?
Yeah, so season 1 for me, I think in terms of quality of writing is probably, in terms of drama and character and subject matter, it's probably the best out of all Star Wars. However, I do prefer the stuff that George Lucas has written because it's got more of the fantasy elements and the spiritual elements and the kind of pulpy and memeable kind of quality to it. There's more of a timeless feel to George Lucas's Star Wars, I feel, than Andor, which a lot of people can be turned off by it because it is more or less just it's showing the rise of, fascism and a rebellion and the seeds of that. And you do have to kind of remind yourself that it's a Star Wars show every now and then, because I just get so engrossed into it in terms of like a war drama that then a stormtrooper will just walk past and I'll be like, oh yeah, we are in Star Wars, aren't we?
The only time season 1 really got memeable besides the serial moments was, as stated last week, the fisherman from Roast Mutton with the cum net.
Do I still have that? I hope I still got that.
I think I was the one who presented that. Hang
on. Did yeah? No, I need to save that, so I've got that to bring up.
No, that's not what that is.
That is not what that is. Come on, we need it. But yeah, while we're waiting for that picture, which we might need at some point, please feel free to comment along. Let us know your thoughts on the season premiere of the first 3 episodes. And how are you finding it? And obviously keep the commentary going as we talk about the episode bit by bit, which is what we're going to go into. All of that being said, I was coming into this series. That is not it, and I'm not going to bring that up because that is a spoiler for something you've got coming up on your channel. I was coming into season 2 really, really excited. And I think the rewatch of series one was, well, number one, necessary, because if I'd have just come straight into this, having not rewatched season one, I would have been completely lost. So I'm so thankful that I gave that a rewatch. And also, I just appreciated it a lot more on a rewatch as well, and picked up on a little bit more of the nuance and a little bit more of the plot lines and the characterization. Here we go. So if we ever refer to Cumnet, that's what we're talking about. That's from series one right there. So there was a lot of hype, but I wanted to temper my expectations. I kind of expected
Definitely
I'd be getting more or less the same what I enjoyed from series one. And I think this is definitely a carryover from that. I think if you didn't like series one for the fact that it was too grounded, it was too gritty, it was too realistic, it didn't really have as many of the Star Wars isms, this series two ain't going to do you any favors. It's pretty much exactly what you signed up for. If you did enjoy the stuff go on, sorry.
The only characters who behave like I'm gonna call them Marvel Disney like characters are literally starving to the point that they don't have their wits anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the only people who behave like characters from Guardians of the Galaxy are on the verge of losing their minds.
That was also probably my least favorite part of all of these 3 episodes. So coming into it, we start off, we get our title card, which it's, for anyone who doesn't know, this was meant to be a 5-season show. Tony Gilroy, I don't know if it was from the higher ups at Disney or whether it was a decision all on his behalf, said that he didn't really want to stick with the story for that long because it would be years and years, probably decades actually, by the time he got all 5 seasons out. So, but he found a way to truncate everything that he wanted to tell into the 4 years leading up to Rogue One and the events of A New Hope. And I like that we get that title card at the beginning, 4 years BBY. And I think that's going to be quite effective, having that at the beginning of every single story up, because it's like a ticking clock. It's like a doomsday clock, isn't it, leading up to that fateful moment.
Strike that reverse at BBY 4.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, BBY 4. Same thing.
It should, I mean, technically it should be 4 BBY because it's an abbreviation for 4 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I quite like that immediately grounds us into it. And from the opening scene, I did think, oh, has Tony Gilroy taken a couple of notes? Has Disney kind of put a few post-it notes through the door saying, we need to make this a little bit more action-packed. We need to get a little bit more, TIE fighters.
We need corridor shootouts.
Yeah. And I was a little bit like, oh, God, where's this going to go? And I must admit, and I guess this is a carryover from my thoughts on season 1 as well, my least favorite stuff from season 2 so far is all the Cassian stuff. Everything else is great, and I'm on board, and it's fantastic, and it's great world building. A lot of this Cassian stuff. So he's on a mission to steal or to test pilot a prototype TIE fighter, the TIE Avenger, I think it's called. He's had some training before that's alluded to, but he's had training on a different kind of ship or a different kind of TIE fighter. He's not used to the controls. All of this leads out to this just horrific takeoff, and he's bouncing off the hangar walls, and he's being shot at. And first and foremost, I was just like, what is...
Don't you hate when you play a new video game and the flight controls turn out to be inverted, but they don't tell you? I fucking hate
used to be me. Before I warmed up to it, it used to be me on Battlefront 2 on PS2, where you'd fly into the hangar, you're just bouncing around.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, and or when you sometimes when you land you try to land, you'd clip into something so it would make you go back up, but you can't be like, oh no, or turn or maneuver, because all you can do is go up and watch this animation.
I will say,
evening, Carl.
Yeah, hey, we got a Carl who says, evening guys, I've seen the tide turn slightly online with Andor, with some saying it's boring. People always said it was boring from season 1.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that's the tide turning. I think that's people who didn't like season 1 saying they didn't fix it.
This is what I mean. People that love season 1, I think this is the highest rated live action Star Wars content on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that I go by Rotten Tomatoes for everything, but it is worth
noticing. You honestly shouldn't. You shouldn't. You should. I don't think you should go by any community like ranking thing,
Yeah.
because you're just gonna get a bunch of people who hate it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. What I will say is when I used to play Battlefront 2 and I tried to land in the enemy hangar, 3 nudges and you were blowing up. What is this TIE fighter made of? This thing's made of rubber. This is bouncing around the walls. It's getting shot at.
This is that's a TIE. I believe that's called a TIE interceptor. It is a more advanced thing. You see it in the trailer for it's called Hunted. It's a cinematic trailer for Squadrons.
Well, this is what happens when someone piloting said TIE fighter has plot armor and can get out of any scrape. And there are many scrapes. He bounces this thing off canyon walls and he's fine. So it did stretch the realm of probability for me in a show that's very, very grounded. I thought this was a little bit of a stretch, and it was kind of losing me at the very beginning of this, I must admit. There was some sort of cringe dialogue as well. There's that thick pilot, the insider who's like his informant or whatever, who's on the mission with him at the beginning.
I thought you meant thick.
No, with two C's. With 2 C's. And
no, I understand that.
She speaks to she speaks to the other worker and she says like, "Oh, she thinks you're cute," and I'm like, I'm not digging this writing so far.
That actually reminds me, so they talked about how the two of them, like, she had like a cover story for what the two of them were doing.
Yes.
And then that same scene, she's like, "Okay, I just need 12 minutes to get out." It's like, wait, so did you need the cover story?
Yeah, it was that they were flirting with each other or something, wasn't it? They, after the training, they got together, they started talking.
I think the story was to imply that they started that they would hook up after.
Yeah.
This is more in the editing territory, because you were asking me while you were watching season 1 how I would edit it down. I would if I were turning this whole arc into one thing, I would probably lose the entire adventure in the jungle unless those characters come back.
Yeah.
And in so doing, if I would probably need to have to like shift around the Cassian stuff to have it spread out throughout a longer period. So I would probably cut it after the friend leaves and she said she was cute. And cut back to that later with them saying, "Okay, how long do you need?" So it's like, okay, the time where they would have allegedly flirted and hooked up has just passed.
Well, you could also have him. You could have a bit of an action beat. Maybe cut it down a little bit of him taking the TIE fighter. That's where you leave the Andor, the Cassian stuff, and then
definitely.
You come back to him later where he's floating through space and he gets that radio transmission from the relic shop.
I would include I would have him escape and then cut to the end of the second episode when we reveal that the spoiler jungle planet is Yavin.
Yeah. That was a weird reveal. Let's get into that now. I think we'll stick with the Cassian stuff. We're all going to be sort of moving around the place with this. So yeah, he crash lands on this planet, and he's meant to be meeting someone there. He's meant to rendezvous with someone there, and they're not there. And the plan goes awry. And these 2 rival gangs. Well, I think they're all one gang, aren't they? But the de facto leader, there's squabbling, there's infighting within the gang, and they split into 2 rival gangs at this point. And I've
never needed a better example of cut off the head and the body will die as far as an organization is concerned than these rebels after their leader disappeared.
Yeah, and it shows just how you got all these sort of squabbling guerrilla rival factions,
angry,
that all have a common enemy. That all have the same enemy. They hate the Empire, but they're just they're all over the place, and they need sort of bringing together, which is what we'll eventually get with either the end of this series or certainly when we get to Rogue One and A New Hope as well. I get what they were trying to go for. This was my least favorite shit in all 3 episodes. 1 year later,
this was probably my least favorite episode.
Yeah, it's the weakest episode of the 3 for me. Might even be a contender for one of my least favorite episodes if I combine both seasons so far. the writing and just the performances felt very amateurish and just felt very awkward. Now, you did raise a good point at the beginning of this episode where you mentioned that they've been deserted there for quite a while, and they're probably starting to get a little, tapped. They're a little bit unhinged. Their modes of speaking is going to be
2 days without food.
Yeah, but even that, like, there was some really awkward humor, and the acting.
They were doing Marvel jokes.
Yes, it really didn't land for me.
I don't mind when Star Wars does the Marvel jokes when it's a show that does the Marvel jokes, but it did feel out of place here.
Yeah, just real quick.
There's no one. Oh.
Must admit, it's pretty epic with JX reviewing while holding a sword. That's not just any sword, by the way. Do you want to do a
no?
Little...
This isn't that sword. This is not a bastard sword. My cousin gave me.
You have
I did recently get a new sword, though.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Well, we can reveal that sword at some other point. I think maybe if you got it lying
maybe
around.
Next week.
Yeah,
I'm 2 floors away from that sword right now.
We should mention that every stream and do it in like the season finale or something.
Just have a different sword every stream and be like, no, we'll reveal the cool one.
So yeah, this stuff was just real awkward for me. I didn't really feel like there was much tension. The awkward jokes and awkward line delivery from some of the actors just really took me out of the scene. There's awkward moments as well where they're saved by Deus Ex Machina of this CGI hog thing, this reptilian hog thing that just comes in and saves the day.
You see, I don't see that as I don't see the hog thing as the Deus Ex Machina. I see them deciding to have this rock paper scissors game at night as the Deus Ex Machina. Yeah. Because the hog thing is like an established thing that all of them know about.
So when they eventually set up base on Yavin 4,
I don't think he was.
Did they have to just go on like a hunting mission to kill all of these reptilian hog things so none of them were taken out?
I'm assuming it wasn't dissimilar from what happened when they discovered Chopper Base in Rebels, because that had you remember those spider things that Grogu was eating?
Mm-hmm.
It had those.
Yeah. Let's put a pin in spiders because we will be coming back to spiders at some other point. This was the weakest stuff for me with Cassian. Like Cassian, I get that, and maybe this is what they're going for. He's a character very similar to Jack Sparrow. I think I mentioned this in the previous stream, who's just kind of along for the ride. The adventure and everything else is sort of happening around him, and he's sort of haphazardly moving between it all. But yeah, I'm still not getting much from his character. I wanted to see that growth in his character from where we see him in the very final scene of season 1. And I haven't really got that yet. So yeah, not too keen on all of that stuff. And for what? For a reveal that, guess what? This planet that he was on all along was Yavin 4. I'm like, okay. What am I meant to do with that? It reminded me of when I watched Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince for the first time. Now, don't act like book readers because book readers.
No.
Yeah, me as a casual.
It's like people asking.
Yeah.
It's like when you're just like, what the hell's going? Like, wait, why can't there's so many things that are just like I've accepted from those movies. I accepted from those movies because book readers were like, oh, it's because of this. I was like, oh, okay. But then going back, I was like, oh, it doesn't make any sense unless you know that, though. Like, spew?
Spew, yeah. That's in Goblet of Fire or Order of the Phoenix.
Goblet of Fire, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Half-Blood Prince, for example.
Why Creature listens to Harry? That was the big thing that I was just like, at no point is it established that Harry owns everything Sirius owned.
Yeah. It's like I got to the end of Half-Blood Prince and
including his slave.
There's this big dramatic reveal, the music ramps up and he just goes, I am the Half-Blood Prince. And I'm just sat there like, okay.
Who?
Yeah. He may as well have just turned around and said, I am an Aquarius. I'm like, okay, that's a bit of info on the character, but like, what can I do with that? What's high?
Yeah, all that as somebody who hadn't read the books, all that told me when I saw it was, oh, so he was always really into potions, I guess.
Yeah, I can't do anything with it. It's not really doesn't really impact the plot all that much, or does it? So
that was his hobby, but for some reason he wanted to be the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and then they wanted Professor Quirrell, I'm assuming, and he was like, "Well, I guess I've got this fallback, like mastery."
I think it's weird that this planet as well, Yavin 4, is this going to be Cassian that brings this up to eventually to the rebel leaders?
No,
that this is going to be a good place to go back to?
No, that's later. That's in Rebels.
I was going to say, like, hey, we should go to this planet where there was this like weird cabin fevered up gang, and there was these reptilian hog things that were picking them all off. That'd be a great place to set up base. Let's fucking go. But it did give me a very nice establishing shot that I could potentially use for an edit at some point. So there is that. Brinsley says, "Sup lads, just in a game at the moment, but we'll try and chime in though." That's fair enough, man. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. Right, let's move away from
shit out of Oblivion Remastered.
Yeah, I like how they kept some of the jankiness.
Oh my god, I looked it up. If you look at the Oblivion Remastered clip of hang on, let me do that one again. You'll find a comment. One of the comments by me is just thank God, because I was so worried they would try to fix these things where the voice actors like, I heard the Thieves Guild hit the Arcane University, the Imperial Palace, and the prison all at the same night. Hang on, let me do that one again. I heard the Thieves Guild.
Is that a thing in the actual game?
Oh yeah.
They left it in. They left a line flub.
It's even. They've left a couple. They left a couple, but I know at least one of them was taken out because it was by the orc. It was an orc who said it, and all the orcs have new voice acting. But it's even better when you know that the person who did that flub is the master speechcraft instructor.
Love it. That's great. So that's kind of the Cassian stuff. That is my biggest weakness so far with season 2. So far overall, I think by the time we get to it's a very similar effect to me that season 1 had, actually, that I wasn't really sure of the first 2 episodes, and then by the end of episode 3 I'm like, okay, I'm on board. That being said, the first 3 episodes that were presented, and also on a rewatch of the first 3 of season 1, I do think season 1 has the edge so far. There's a few little bits in the writing, really this whole Cassian thing where I'm like, I'm going to dock it a few points for that. I think it just really didn't land with me.
But
we then
shooting through the door with the vehicle and then smashing through it, I'm pretty sure that's like right out of Jedi Outcast.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think I've played that, actually. Jedi Outcast. You're the best one to go from that. I've seen that Jedi Outcast. Is that the... No, I'm thinking of Fallen Order. Which one am I thinking of? Oh, Outcast is that recent game that came out, right? With the chick where...
No, that's Jedi Survivor. Oh,
Which one's Jedi Outcast? I have no idea what
you're talking about. Jedi Outcast is Jedi Knight 3. Jedi Knight 2. Dark Forces 3.
Was that... what console was that?
Xbox. Original. And PC.
I played one of those games. There's a bit where you have to
probably Jedi Academy. Everybody played Jedi Academy.
There's like a moving monorail or train.
That's Jedi Academy.
Yeah, that's the one I played.
Such a good mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay, so that's the sequel to Jedi Outcast, where you're playing as the apprentice of the main character of Jedi Outcast.
Got you. Okay. I remember you fight lizards in that game, if I remember rightly.
Howlers.
Yeah.
And they stick their big necks out and scream, which makes you have to cover your ears. Except there's no hitbox on the neck, even though there's no better place to hit.
Their weak spot is on the neck and under the arm, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Brinsley says, Chris, you are getting confused with Outlaws. Yes.
Oh, Outlaws. That makes sense. Outcast, Outlaws.
Yeah.
Outlaws has the model for Ochi ship.
Oh, does it? Nice. Hey, someone could do something with that, maybe. Let's move to the next faction of characters now, then. So we move to this agricultural
planet. Our first ever appearance of Chandrila.
Oh, we're doing Chandrila first?
Oh, sorry. I thought I'll be honest. That's my next note. So yes.
Well, we see Bix first, and she's having nightmares. She's having some kind of PTSD. Right. And I think that was the doctor who came in and tortured her with the audio.
Yeah, that was the torture doctor. I had a note for that. Where is that? Yeah, I swear I had the note for the torture doctor, but I must have forgot to put it down.
So we have I think it's called Mina Rao. I'm still getting. There's a lot of planets in this. It was reminding me of the beginning of Rogue One, actually. How we're here for 30 seconds, then we jump to this new planet, and we get the little captions coming up at the bottom. So we got Bix, Brasso, and Wilmon. Bix was the only character who I remembered by name, despite me going, I recognize that person from season 1, and I still don't know their name, which might say something about some of the characterization that I don't know. Maybe that's there too. They're on this farm planet, and they've been taken in by this local farmer, but they're undocumented. And they hear tell that the Imperials are going to shut communications down on the planet because they're going to be doing inspections. They're going to be going from homestead to homestead, covering the majority of the planet, and getting those filthy illegal immigrants out of there, essentially.
Can I just say, I'm so fucking glad Star Wars is like talking about something in modern politics. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars has always been about politics in some way, hasn't it? So can't get on my high horse about that.
Yeah, it feels like since Disney's taken over, the politics has gotten more generalized, and there was a lot more to say back then, but like the most the sequels even get is war profiteering is bad. It is, but that's all the sequels even do with politics, which I get because it was a response to the prequels. But yeah,
a lot of the criticism that I've seen from this episode. Well, there's one very, very controversial scene which we'll talk about later on, which is to do with the characters that we're mentioning.
Episode. That's the third episode.
Yeah. We're talking about this in a generalized view. But another thing that I saw was that people were complaining that the term visas was too on the nose and was too set in our world. But then I saw someone saying that in visas, they talk about that they need visas. It should be something like as general as like identification or something, but the term visas is used. But someone said that in it might be KOTOR or one of those games, you have to get a something visa to get to the next area or to be. It might be that game. I might be misremembering it. But the long and short of it is that visas has been used in Star Wars before. So it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me personally.
Yeah, no, it didn't even occur to me that it would be like an Earth word until you mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is kind of an Earth word.
And it's because we're going so realistic. And you know, the Nazi parallels and everything has always been there since day one of the original Star Wars. But because we are really getting this is how wars happen. This is how situations happen like this, probably happening now actually in this world. This is what happens. You know, they come in, they inspect, they check identification and everything that goes with it. And a lot goes with it, which we even see in this episode. None of it bothered me because from episode 1 of season 1 of Andor has just established itself as adult Star Wars. And I know there is a disconnect there because George Lucas himself said that he made Star Wars for 12-year-olds, and there is a family dynamic to it. And there are some subject matters and certain things which would be out of place and would be awkward in Star Wars. So we'll talk about that scene later on, but I'm kind of warming up to that. I can see both sides of the argument here with stuff like this, but I'm fine with Star Wars branching off in millions of different directions. You've got shows that are aimed at really, really little kids. Like, what's that new animated show that's out with like Yoda and the younglings? Like for preschoolers,
something like Young Jedi Adventures or something.
Something like that. So you have shows like that. You'll have shows like Skeleton Crew, which are aimed at like a younger audience or young teens or something like that. You have your main body of films, and then this is like if HBO did Star Wars. And I know it's all meant to fit in this one uniform umbrella that is Star Wars, but Star Wars has never really been that. It has been all over the place, sort of tonally amongst everything, hasn't it?
Guy, I'm gonna punch you when I see you.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sure somebody who has watched all our streams knows what I'm talking about.
Oh. Okay.
This is such a tone flip for you.
What?
Just that general view, like of the idea of Star Wars has been this all-encompassing thing. And you have been the staunchest advocate of definable Star Wars for as long as I have known you.
Well, there's this core set of films, which is George Lucas's Star Wars, which is, that is Star Wars to me. Even with this, like, I don't see this as canon. This is still in Disney's umbrella, but it's just the best thing that they've put out, and the writing's great.
You don't see the prequels as canon.
I've reached a level of acceptance. I'm seeing Revenge of the Sith on the weekend. Like, I'm gonna go and see it.
But you've also like when you were doing those reviews for the prequels because you were seeing them for the anniversary. You were literally texting me like, "Yeah, no, these aren't canon."
Yeah, no, like it's 4, 5, 6 to me, and the story is basically told with those 3 films. The backstory that it sets up within those originals doesn't really marry up and doesn't align perfectly with the prequels. But I grew up with the prequels, so there's a level of acceptance there. So
you should just read the Alan Dean Foster 1976 novelization. Mm. They literally they talk about what would become the Crawl talks about the prequels, and it's basically just the Phantom Menace, except replace Valorum with Palpatine. It's not even a Sith.
So with all this Star Wars stuff, like I'm fine with it, tonally, it having different audiences that it's aiming for, provided that the writing's good for all of those. And the long and short of it is that the writing has been complete and utter fucking dog shit for most of the Star Wars shows, certainly under Disney, and some could argue under Lucas as well in some respects. But this, like, I'm fine with this. That's why, the people really get on their high horse about this and go, "Oh, this is so controversial and everything." I'm like, the tone's been set with this. If you're not on board with it, then what are you fucking about with Andor for?
Like when Zack Snyder's Justice League came out and you were talking about Batman, doing things that could potentially kill people, and I'm like, that's a complaint for Batman versus Superman.
And I did, and I do complain about that.
Perfectly valid complaint for Batman versus Superman, but it's already established by Justice League.
Yeah. We've got Tobias who says, just finished the first arc. It was decent, slightly underwhelmed, to be honest. I share a little bit. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It hasn't kind of gripped me as much as season 1 has so far, especially after the rewatch. But maybe this will have the same effect.
I think an issue with that, I think all of the endings are going to be a little underwhelming compared to last season, because last season you would end an arc and then immediately also sort of set up the next one. I can't swim.
Yeah, it depends if those rebels,
but with those, the time skips.
Yeah, if those guerrilla soldiers that we guerrilla soldiers, this is like a Green Arrow comic book or something. If they come back into it,
America great again. That happened. They did that.
Random tangent. There was a PS2 game I had, and it was a Justice League game or DC Heroes or something, and you could assemble your team and you could switch between them. They did a bunch of games like this. There was an X-Men game where you had like a little company that you played as and you fought through the levels. Anyway, you could get you have the Green Lantern character, right? You go to Green Arrow's world, or the world of like the gorillas or whatever it is in DC. And Green Arrow delivers a line in that game where I had to pause the game and just kind of scratch my head as to what he was getting at. And I'm going to give you the line right now. Very heroically, he says, "Gorillas, they're not just for breakfast anymore." And that's lived rent-free in my head for all these years. I don't know what it means. Help me. You're the DC guy. Help me understand what that means. Green Arrow's been like snacking on gorillas, I guess.
Not just for breakfast. Gorillas.
They're not just for gorillas. They're not just for breakfast anymore. It's a wonderful line of dialogue.
I feel like I can see like the Robins having breakfast with like a Gorilla O's cereal.
Oh no. I don't know. Anyway, what was I getting at with
Gorilla
this? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. That was a random tangent.
You said those guerrilla fighters and it made you think.
But if they don't come back in this series, then to me, I feel like they've wasted 3 episodes of screen time that we could have established with much more interesting things with Andor that we could have set up. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Remember when we reviewed Skeleton Crew and we had all of these things that we thought were being set up and alluded to for the finale?
They're all just one-offs.
It never happened.
And
yeah,
I think each of these are going to be more or less one-offs. Although I did the math. What's the planet with the spiders? Gordon. Gorman. They need to have finished with Gorman by the end of the season finale, like by the end of the last arc this season, according to Craig.
Well, yeah, because they mentioned they need materials from it. So should we move to?
No, but he specifically said they need 3 years, which not including this year. So you get next year's 1 year, the arc after that, and then the last arc makes 3 years.
I think there's been some pictures released. I think they've shown that, or it's in the trailer or something, that Cyril is their plant on Gorman. I think he goes down to that planet to either schmooze things out, or he's sent to that planet anyway. Got a few comments.
I can't wait to talk about Cyril.
Oh, we'll get to him. Don't worry. We've got Chandrilla next, but Brinsley says, "I really thought the rap scene in Young Jedi Adventures was unnecessary." There's a rap scene.
Did not see it, but it probably was.
Well, we get a rap battle in that one, and we get a rave scene at the end of this one. We're gonna get a chicken jockey in the next one. I have a note
about it. I wouldn't call it. Oh, fuck off.
I've immediately dated this review, haven't I?
Yeah, you did. You said the episode came out yesterday.
Oh, I have. Yeah, there you go.
So Continue. It was pretty dated. Yeah, I put. I'm getting. Where was it?
I'm getting the word.
I'm getting Dutch festival disco vibes from the wedding.
Yeah. So Chandrilla, I mean, if you want an example of where has the huge budget that this show has, where has it all gone? Look no further than Chandrilla. The sets here are incredible.
Yeah, they're pretty great sets, actually. Yeah. No,
and they showcase it beautifully as well. I was really paying attention to the cinematography, the way the camera moves. It's so dynamic. It's almost like a unbroken one shot where we just follow Mon Mothma greeting all of the guests, and we get a good sense of the landscape. And I love all this stuff because I'm loving seeing this Chandrillan culture. It's really cool to see a new culture be, from the costumes, and their customs, and their ceremonies, and everything. The architecture.
I feel like, I like this about Star Wars because I think it's sort of a nice divide between Star Wars and Star Trek, because I think what you get with Chandrilla here with these ancient traditions in this space bear, like these ancient, let's just say archaic traditions, needlessly outdated traditions in a spacefaring advanced race. This is what happens when you get Star Trek without the Prime Directive.
Yeah,
like you find a society that harkens to traditions that are not. I'm just gonna go hot take. Traditions aren't that important. People change. Societies change. It's important for us to change with them. A new journal must be written. The lessons of the history of the galaxy and the Star Wars we endured.
Well, I like that because, Mon Mothma has gone through this custom, wedded at a very, very young age, arranged marriage. And so she has some insight and a new perspective on this that she's trying to pass on to her daughter. And, one day her daughter's going to grow up and she's going to have exactly the same thing. There's some wonderful moments of character here. I got to say it, Mon Mothma, I loved her character in Series 1, and so far she's my favorite thing in Season 2. She really is. The actress is astounding. I keep saying this too, but I'm so glad that they stuck with the same actress from the deleted scenes. she was great in that as well. I don't think you could have picked a better actress to play a younger Mon Mothma from the one that we see in Return of the Jedi. And with this show,
softness of her voice, it's so perfect.
yeah,
The Emperor has made a critical error, and the time for attack is now.
the way she holds herself, the way that she carries herself, like her poise and everything. But we are seeing her unravel and come apart at the seams, and the stresses of setting up this rebellion, or the seeds of this rebellion behind the scenes, whilst trying to maintain a reputation and also not be turned over to the Empire, is incredible to watch. And the whole noise and pomp and circumstance of this bridal ceremony that is the set piece of this whole thing, as she's still trying to navigate being a mother and being a part of this tradition to save face, but have all of this stuff going on in the background. And this stuff that's going on in the background is that her friend, her conspirator in all this, that helps smooth over all of her financial woes, is he's kind of getting cold feet in this whole setup, isn't he? His own finances and connections are dwindling and have not borne any fruit out of this relationship that he's had with Mon Mothma.
And his wife is taking the rest.
Yes, he's in a not too great financial situation at this point, and he either wants a number or he's going to turn her over. And Luthen certainly is going to make sure that that doesn't happen. I found this stuff fascinating. I mean, I already love Luthen. It's two of my favorite characters. I've got Mon Mothma and Luthen in the same situation, and it's when I've got all of this brilliant direction and set design and location, and it's just an absolute feast for the eyes. I was getting kind of Bollywood vibes from this as well, certainly at the end of episode 3 with the dancing and like the lavish ceremony and the costumes and the dresses and the colors and everything. This was the most just the most interesting thematically, and all the things that you can pick apart with Mon Mothma's character, I think.
There was a line that stuck out to me. I thought it was a great little I see what you did there. When it was I don't know if it was her mother-in-law or her soon to be. It
was a sister-in-law. Yeah, sister-in-law. Yeah.
But she said, "You look younger somehow you look younger every time I see you." And she replies, "Oh, how easily you lie." It's like, bitch, if you knew the half of it.
Oh, I think it was the mother-in-law. I think I know which bit you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't think it was the mother-in-law, because the mother-in-law is the one who gave her the shots, right?
No, I thought that was the sister-in-law with the shots towards the end.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, wait.
Sorry, because she was an older lady with a brilliant white hair. So yeah, I think that was.
Yeah. No, sorry. When you said mother-in-law, I started thinking about Lita's mother-in-law, not her soon-to-be sister-in-law.
Yeah. This was the whole segment actually that reminded me. Well, there's another scene in particular that reminded me of Game of Thrones, but this is something I could imagine with like Cersei, like when she's trying to protect her daughter and everything. She knows what she's gone through, and she's trying to impart that wisdom onto her daughter so that history doesn't repeat itself. One of my favorite scenes out of all 3 of these episodes, actually my favorite 2 moments are both Mon Mothma scenes. One is the dance number at the end, which is mostly to do with the editing and just how that built up and the juxtaposition of everything that was going on at the time. But the moment where her daughter's about to walk through those doors and get herself married, and she
Do you think
tells
Myrcella and Cersei had a scene had a moment like this before she went off to Dorne?
Well, she's just put on the ship, isn't she, quite unceremoniously, and just shipped off. I don't even think she got a moment like this. Does she get a moment to say goodbye to her daughter?
I mean, it's cut like we cut to her already on the ship, but there's nothing that says, like we have the scene where Cersei is yelling at Tyrion, and then the next time we see them, she's being shipped off. So there could potentially have been a scene there where she's like, my mother was drunk when I married Robert, and she says, I wish you were drunk. I never want to see you again. If you send Uncle Jamie to Dorne, it will ruin season 5. Don't do it.
Well, I always thought that in season 1 of this, her daughter was taking to the
A
customs,
bitch.
the Chandrilan. Well, yeah, she was, but she was taken to the Chandrilan customs in order to get back at her mom, and I still think there is an element to that, definitely. But it was a really sweet scene by both actresses, and especially the one who plays Mon Mothma. I thought handled it beautifully. When her daughter sort of assigns herself to her fate, how she stands in front of her and puts the veil on. It's like, okay, well, let's get this over with then. And she wipes her face and then she says, "Get behind me," and then they walk out.
And well, this wasn't this this was after the greatest father of the bride speech ever.
Mm.
It was not. It was a fucking horrible speech. That was. You ever see George Lucas talk about pleasure versus happiness versus joy?
I think I have at some point. Yeah, that rings a bell.
It's
I
the
think I have.
exact opposite of that speech. It's literally like, your life is about to be bleak. Squeeze out as much pleasure from it as you can for those moments of happiness you will get, because those moments are great. And it's literally the opposite of what George Lucas is talking about, because he's like, he just, pleasure is much, it's great, it's much more intense, it's than joy, but it's fleeting. Like,
Yeah,
it is a moment. Like, it's the exact same lesson, but with the exact opposite sentiment.
there's a channel on YouTube. I'm just trying to find the name. Yeah, Rick Worley. You may have seen some of his stuff. I think I've linked you that. How to watch Star Wars is the name of the series, anyway. And there's one video where he talks about the cinematography of George Lucas and how, certainly in the prequel, well, not even just in the prequels, I think it's in the OT as well. There's a lot of symbolism with circles in there, in the way that, sets and the way things that are shot. There's a lot of concentric circles in symbolism and everything, and he shows all video evidence of this. There was actually a lot of that in the Chandrilan stuff, I was noticing, whether that was intentional or not, when they stand in that
I don't
circle.
think it was intentional in the prequels. This dates back to this. This reminds me back when of the ring theory, and the ring theory can be summarized with one clip of George Lucas. Again, you see, it's like poetry, so that they rhyme.
I don't know.
So
I'd give him more
rhymes with the
credit than
last
that,
one.
because the archive books where he goes into interviews, like he mentions that he, like, the circles and everything being connected. You even have that line from Obi-Wan where he goes to Otto Gunga, where he's talking about symbiont circles.
Yeah, I remember them mentioning, drawing attention to this during the ring theory.
But
I remember words like circles within circles.
Yeah. Anyway, I noticed it in the.
Wait, did he say that in that video that you sent me? I didn't watch it. I don't know if you could tell. But does he
I'm not
actually
sure.
say circles within circles?
I can't
that's
remember. He uses quotes. It's very well researched. It's probably one of the best Star Wars videos out there on YouTube in terms of its research behind it, I think. But anyway, suffice to say, I was noticing stuff in the architecture in the Chandra. There's
That's not, by the way, my doubt isn't an insult to that. My doubt is more like, I'm sure there are plenty.
Mm-hmm. But in the courtyard where we have that camera, that unbroken shot, you can see sort of circular archways. There's the bit where, when the bride walks out, she steps over that twig. they lay like a branch on the floor and she steps over it.
Driftwood.
Yeah, and then they walk in the circle, and I don't know. I was noticing more stuff like that, whether it was intentional or not. But I don't know. It added to the cultural stuff.
If you took all the firewood that Boromir was gathering and glued it together, that's what it would look like.
Yeah. We also see Val as well during all of this, and she's asking about where, I keep forgetting her name. What's the name of the one she's after? Cinta, who was her lover.
When did she ask about Cinta?
Yeah, she asks, the one who runs the antique store with Luthen, who goes back to the store.
I remember her referring to them as two single women, eyeing the prospects, which she saying.
Yeah, she asks Luthen, actually. Yeah, so she asks Luthen in episode 1 the whereabouts of her partner, and he refuses to tell her where she is.
Well, not her partner, because the receptionist who probably does all the heavy lifting, describes them both as two single women. So I have to assume that incredibly unhealthy relationship from last season didn't work out.
Yeah, well, we basically saw that, didn't we? She was asking for a whereabouts in series 1 as well, and it's, you know, two single women
We take what's
alone
left
on the job together. You know, we're going to be here for a few weeks. Let's make the most of it. And I feel like that's what they did. I feel like Cinta is a creature of opportunity, maybe in that regard. But they do share a knowing glance at the end of episode 3, and we have that. It's essentially like the Godfather moment, isn't it? Where he's taken away in the car at the end.
Yeah, no, not far off. Not far off at all. Or
and like the Godfather, where you have that, well, it's the baptism scene, isn't it, in the Godfather, where everyone's getting whacked as it keeps cutting back to the.
You mean the inspiration for Anakin killing the Separatists?
Yes, yeah. But I was getting Godfather vibes from that, not just the fact that he got taken away to be taken care of at the end, but how you have this lavish party and her just dancing. She's just dancing all those emotions away. She's dancing like it's like the world's about to end, which it essentially is, isn't it, with the construction of the Death Star and what the Empire's got coming up. It was a wonderful character moment, a total catharsis for her, that her best friend, she knows, is going to be assassinated. That there's a really nice exchange between her and Luthen, and I wish I'd have written down
Mon
that
Mothma
line.
does not know that he's going to be assassinated.
Yeah, she does. She does. She puts 2 and 2 together. That's what the whole. She was dancing through all that shit at the end. She knew what had to happen. She knew what was about to happen. She couldn't verbalize it.
She knew that it was going to happen that soon. I think she knew it was definitely on the table. I think she knew everything she was working towards was being threatened. But I don't think she knew that Luthen was about to have him killed.
I disagree, because he said that this needs to be taken care of now. He already mentioned that he was going to go to the Empire or to...
And then she said, I don't know what that means. And he said,
yeah,
well, because fortunate for you.
Yeah, that was it. That exchange. She knew what was about to happen, but she just couldn't comprehend it. This was a childhood friend, and that all, you know, and as he has helped to smooth out all these financial debts. But I think Luthen says as well, people change or people go bad or something. There's a line that he mentions.
Yeah, people aren't. Yeah. It. I forget the line, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Brinsley agrees as well. Mom definitely knew it was happening by the end, and that's why she's like,
so you'll skip ahead for the sake
No, I'm going to go
me down, but
it just pops up.
Well, yeah.
But you know, that's why she just gets drunk. She's like, you know what? I'm just going to drink. I'm going to dance. I'm going to just get all of this inner turmoil out in a physical dance. I guess kind of like Joker a little bit, you know, how he kills those guys on the subway and then he just interprets it through like the weird dancing that he does in that first movie, the good Joker movie.
No, I wouldn't say that as because Mon Mothma's coping with her dance. He's transforming.
Yeah. Oh,
it's me stepping into my new life of crime. Oh my God, you do interpretive dance? I was so wrong. You are cool. Really? No! Everything I learn about you just makes you more lame. Come here. I preferred Jared Leto. Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't. I don't know what you're fucking talking about.
It's the sequel to those Badman videos.
Oh, okay.
But it's like the crossover between Batman and X-Men with its EX-Men, because Xavier is firing everyone. It's Batman firing. It's Bat-canned. He's firing the Justice League.
But let's just like examine what Mon Mothma's lost by the end of this episode. All in the event of this, really. She's still in a loveless marriage. She's lost a best friend who has had to be taken care of, and she's lost a daughter as well. There's one vestige of hope that she could save her daughter from the same fate that she had.
A son? No, she's lost a daughter.
She's lost everything. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that daughter's gone.
But yeah, Mon Mothma just cementing herself as my favorite character in the show alongside Luthen. and it's great stuff. Let's just backtrack through some of these comments.
The second Luthen pulls out a lightsaber, he'll stop being your favorite character.
That's what Theory would like, isn't it? He needs more lightsabers in this.
I think it's just gonna happen. Like at this, like I feel like he's probably like a Jedi who has turned or something along those lines. Maybe he was related to Count Dooku, but the fact is he had a lightsaber last season that he just kind of carries around with him.
The last thing I'll say on the Mon Mothma stuff and that whole Chandrilla storyline is when the disco ball droid came in and the rave started, I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first. It did kind of get my hackles up a little bit. That they kind of established what the Chandrillan music was like. There was lots of harps. It was very classical. It was very ornate. And then all of a sudden it was like spring break. And it was,
hashtag for the kids. But it
worked.
It
worked.
It felt very modern and like child, but like, yeah, that's what would happen if if a 14 and a 15-year-old got married. This is what it would sound like.
Yeah, totally.
I have one more note about the wedding.
I've been rinsing that song as well. Someone's done a version of it on YouTube, and I dig it, love it. What's your last note on the Chandrillan stuff?
The statue that Luthen got the crime guy to give to the happy couple of the one of 9 statues that were stolen from the Chandrillan temple 25,000 years ago by the Rakatan invaders.
Does he say that?
He says that. When they unveil the statue with the white and the gold, and it was stolen 25,000 years ago when Chandrilla was attacked by the Rakatan invaders.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So yeah, I'm saying Dawn of the Jedi might still be happening because not only have we now gotten 2 references to the Rakatan invaders, who are the villains from Dawn of the Jedi.
They're like hammerhead sharks.
We've placed it in the timeline. Kind of very hammerhead. We've placed the invasion of the Rakatans in the timeline, and it is where it was in Legends.
But Disney are going to fuck it up. We're going to wish that we had that old Legends and EU material.
Because back when people considered a generation 25 years. And so 25,000 years over 1,000 generations.
I don't want Disney to touch it. Just leave it. If it was just a reference, that's neat. We have EU books, we have Legends, where it's going to tell all those stories in a much more effective and better way, rather than the watered down cherry picking tripe that we're probably going to get in a few years, if we see that movie at all, because it's gone very, very quiet since that was.
Was that going to be a movie, or was it? Yeah, it was a movie.
Yeah, Dawn of the Jedi. Yeah, it was announced alongside the Rey movie, and that one's already been shit canned. So,
do you think they would have do you think they'd use swords or proto sabers?
Probably proto sabers. Because you're going to have lightsabers in there. It would just, it'd be like the Magna Guard kind of thing, I suppose. Tobias says, but yes, it was refreshing to have the exploration of themes of undocumented immigrants being used for cheap labor, the abuse from officers in the Empire who feel like they can do whatever they want. And we will be getting to that scene, don't worry. Speaking of the Empire, we are going to move over to the Malthine Divide in a second for a certain.
A liquor store isn't allowed to take your. A liquor store isn't allowed to take your fake ID. If they catch you with a fake ID, they're not allowed to take it. But what the fuck are you gonna do? Call the police? And that is the mentality of somebody of these Imperials dealing with undocumented immigrants.
Mm-hmm. Brinsley says Andor is my favorite live action Star Wars show, hands down. I agree. Yeah. Oh, live action. Oh, show. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I just saw that. No, I totally agree with that. Tobias says, I don't think the prequels are canon. Can we even say for sure that they had a real plot? They seemed like a collection of Lucas's crazy ideas, to be honest. I don't know. There is a plot there. Some things are very contrived. Some things are very rushed. And, it could have been paced out very, very differently. I ain't going to say that. But there's a loose canon there. But there's a lot of things that are then contradicted when you watch the OT, which I wish had have been smoothed out a little bit. Stuff about Leia knowing who her real mother is. Stuff about, there's no mention of Qui-Gon Obi-Wan just says, "Oh, Yoda, you trained me," but then it kind of gets retconned where he's probably referring to when he was a youngling.
That book. Wait till you finish the novelization of Episode 3,
Mm-hmm.
because they really they really try to explain that at the end.
Yeah. So yeah,
he describes him as that.
There's just lots of things there. The whole like Owen with 3PO and R2 was there, and then I don't know. There's stuff that I don't like.
Mean? No, not what do you mean. How could it have possibly have been the same moisture farm? I like, what do you mean my head was on a battle droid better?
Mm-hmm. I agree. Tobias says, how did you guys like this? The Cyril, Edie, Daedra, I keep saying Dedra dinner scene. That was peak. It was. We will be talking about that in just a second, but I concur. Let's talk about the Empire then. So, Molthene Divide, and in capital letters on my notes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exclamation points after it, I have Krennic! Because Krennic was my favorite thing in Rogue One. He was bloody fantastic. I love his uniform. I love that he's just a guy trying to climb up the corporate ladder and gets a very, very poetic death at the end of that movie.
I thought he was gonna get. I thought at the timing. No. That's exactly what happened. I mixed up what I thought was gonna happen versus what actually happened. Continue.
We get a very strange scene. I must admit, it wasn't the first Krennic scene I thought we'd get. That they're all called to like a boardroom meeting. All of like
what did you think the first Krennic scene was going to be?
I don't know. Thought it was going to be on some kind of space station or something. Thought, pretty much like the similar things to Rogue One, I guess is what I'm saying. Instead, we have a TV commercial or propaganda, I guess, in some way.
I believe it's a PSA.
Yeah, of the history of Gorman and their business ventures, and the fact that they spin silk, I guess, isn't it? It's materials, it's clothing from spiders. That's why I said put a pin in that from earlier. You have Gorman spiders, and Gorman twill, I think, is the name of the material they produce. Anyway, all of this is in setup that Krennic has met with the Emperor, or so he says. And I have a quote here. It says, the Emperor wants unlimited power. I'm like, yeah.
I've heard it. Yep.
I'm like, yeah, he fucking does. But I had to write it in capital letters with lots of like U's in unlimited. I've literally written it out like that because, of course, I had to. What they really want with Gorman is that there is a rare material there called calcite, which I think he mentions in a very offhanded line very, very quickly, is a substance that the Emperor needs to coat the Death Star lenses. Or he just says to coat the lenses.
The lenses so as he described the lens, so
they don't mention
the energy from the reactor. The energy from the reactor will be focused through these lenses to allow it to diffuse properly. So basically the place, either it's going to be a really good shooty thing, or it's going to be so it doesn't blow up. I didn't quite.
When he said lenses, I was just taken back to playing The Force Unleashed, where you're running through the actual lenses and smashing them with your lightsaber.
And you lift up a stormtrooper and just kind of hold him in the path and wait for the Death Star to fire.
And if you time it right, there's a little little holocron that you have to collect down one
black
of those
lightsaber tubes. Crystal.
Yeah.
First ever Darksaber, I think.
So they hold this meeting because they need to try and think of how they're gonna, essentially, if it comes to it, forcibly mine this calcite that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And you have these shirts that stand up at the boardroom table and they're like, oh, well, we're devising some propaganda to turn people against Gorman, and they're saying spiders are very creepy and they're very shady, and we could extrapolate that to the actual people of Gorman and stuff that actually happened in history.
I feel like if this arc was its own season, that PSA was going to be a lot shorter.
Yes, probably.
There's a lot of exposition we got from there that I think could have been told through dialogue if we had more of this.
Mm-hmm. which I guess takes us on
I
to.
thought at first we wouldn't have gotten it at all, but then they talk about the importance of the propaganda, and so I was like, okay, so we definitely would have gotten that somehow.
Yeah. Dedra, this task is essentially assigned to Dedra, and she really doesn't want it. But
She does not
Kaiban,
find a way.
no one will. Kaiban says, this could be an opportunity if Krennic has picked you out personally. You've got the case, like it or lump it. You've got to deal with it. Which takes us to home life with Cyril and Dedra. You called this in our season 1 video.
Did.
I was kind of hoping
like,
they wouldn't do it, but
you were like, if they were gonna do it, they would have kissed, and it would have been then. And I was like, well, yeah, if this were any other show, but it's treating them like human beings. And so that moment, it wouldn't have been where they first kissed, it's where they first form a connection. But as far as like a show that would have had them kiss there, that connection is all they need. And romance is there. But I mean, I've suggested this in the past where you end episode 2 of you end Attack of the Clones with Padme and Anakin just kissing. And then at the beginning of the next movie, we get the line, "I don't care if they know we're married." And then you use your ears and your brains, and you're like, oh, that their relationship developed and they got married at some points during the break.
Now, these two characters seem incredibly asexual to me. Now, I ain't saying that two asexual people can't get together and have a loving relationship. That ain't what I'm saying. But I feel like there's a means to an end with this pairing. I don't see them as just, cozying up as bunk mates and cohabiting. I feel like there's a reason to this. Do you disagree?
No, I disagree. When Dedra like shot down Cyril's mother,
That was a
and
great
like
scene.
it shows like in her own fucked up Nazi SS officer way, she does care about this man. Maybe it could be because it could be because he's going to be their inside man on Gorman, and she sees him as the means to that end.
That's what I'm
However,
thinking.
I don't think making him like maintain a healthy level of communication with his mother in exchange she'd be nicer to both of them would have really been a priority for her if that was the case.
There's some pretty great comedy with all of this stuff. I love the bit where Dedra's trying to be a normal human being, and she's like awkwardly smiling as she's trying on different outfits. The bit where Cyril's getting completely just belittled by his mother at the dinner table, and she just goes to like a child, goes to his room and just lays on the bed like, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm just gonna lay here and just want the ground to swallow me up. Very, very childlike.
Be careful what behavior you call childish. Sometimes we're socially overwhelmed and we just need to get the fuck out for 5 minutes.
Yeah. But
and why should I be standing if I do that? I mean, why would somebody need to be standing if they did
that? It was a wonderful battle of wills between Edie. Is she called Edie, his mom?
I guess.
Edie. Yeah.
According to Tobias.
Yeah, Edie. Sorry. Yeah. It's a wonderful battle of wills between Edie and Dedra in this table, and Dedra just with brass tacks just lays it all out what the rules of engagement are going to be, and Edie appreciates that. I think Edie was shit testing Dedra, as most mother-in-laws do, a very overprotective mother-in-laws. Cyril's always been a very passive character. We saw that in season 1, and through the course of season 1, he kind of got a bit of gumption by the end of that, and he was stepping up. But he don't need
his moxie.
Yes, but even in this scenario, even in this relationship, it's very easily to see who wears the SS trousers in this relationship, and it's Dedra. And I think you mentioned that usually this is a thing in Sons that they go for women that possess similar traits to their mothers.
Yeah.
And Dedra is that woman, I believe. She is the one who is going to steer him on a path, give him that push that he needs to keep him going. And his mom, Edie, was that person. And now when they came to that agreement, she's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is the right kind of woman that's going to elevate my son to the next level.
This is the girl for my bubby.
And I think it's very, the humor is very good. The performances are great from all of these actors here too. It's very human. I think people watching this show, like we've all been in situations like that, right? Where it's that awkward dinner table. And you just really don't want to be there. And it's like either family meeting family or you meeting the in-law, whatever it happens to be. We've all been in similar situations to that. And I thought it was played really well from everyone there.
My ex had a very Catholic side of the family.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thankfully, the one that we saw the most was like he was very Catholic. He was a good boy, but he was very social and corruptible.
Mm-hmm.
I think one day he's gonna fall off of that tower pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have faith.
It's nice. He won't. So I'm interested to see where this storyline goes with Dedra and Cyril. Initially, it could be a little bit out of place, and I know when I did my season 1 review with yourself, I mentioned that I wish they hadn't have gone the whole relationship route. I need to see where it's going to go with this series. By the end of episode 3, I kind of came around to a little bit more, but I just feel like these two aren't relationship material.
Oh, no.
And I thought it might be better. It's like you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing, without the need for cohabiting and all of that stuff.
He was straight up
help
him last season.
I thought they were going to it was going to be like a mutual exchange of helping each other rise throughout the ranks of the ISB and Empire and whatnot.
Oh, no. He wanted in those white pants. Actually, he probably would love to be in those white pants. He probably would love to be in, like a space Nazi, but...
Well, if they're not white pants now, they will be very, very soon, probably. She's going to make him that cereal every morning.
Wait, what do white pants symbolize to you?
No, I said if they're not white pants, they will be soon. Forget it. He's gonna jizz in his pants. Is where I was going with that. Wait, what?
Come now.
Oh, fuck. Yes. Can we try and do that? Okay, so I need you to share that image with me every single time we do one of these streams. And at least once on that stream, I need a reason to bring that picture up. Okay? That's a task I want us to try and aim for every single stream. However contrived it may be, we need to do that.
If you in the comments can think of something less contrived to put in the live chat to help us segue into it, we would certainly appreciate it.
Hashtag comments.
Not this one, of course.
Let's get it going.
Yeah.
Right. I think the only other plot line that we need to talk about really is...
I have one more thing about the wedding that I missed.
Go on.
Specifically just Mon Mothma's husband, which I could have mentioned last season as well. Just like how he looks. There's a mod for Battlefront 2. It takes the head of bearded Han. Because remember, there's this mission with Maz Kanata where he's got a beard. Mm-hmm. It takes the hair of Rey from The Last Jedi and it puts it on Obi-Wan's body and it gives them Luke's lightsaber. And it's meant to be Qui-Gon Jinn, and it looks just like Mon Mothma, Mr. Mothma.
Yeah, I guess Mr. Mothma. Yeah. Tobias says there were several moments that made me look at season 1 differently. Dedra telling us how she was raised in an Imperial kindergarten. Yeah, makes total sense. She sees the Empire as daddy, literally. Oof. Be still my beating heart. Did she call it a kindergarten?
She said she I forget what she called it.
Kinder something. And I was like, oh well, that's German. That's German for like child, I was thinking, oh, we are bringing the German-esque stuff into this, aren't we? This is
well, kindergarten is the American word for the first, like, I don't want to say first grade, because first grade is first grade, but it's the first grade. God damn it. It's, you go from preschool to kindergarten to first grade.
Yeah, I think we call it reception. Is that in between?
Sure.
We call it reception. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wait.
Preschool. Yeah, Brinsley says. Yeah, preschool.
No. Kindergarten is after preschool.
Oh, nursery. Is it nursery? Nursery. Yeah. Anyway. Divided by a common language, aren't we? We really are. I just want to bring up this comment. Where was it? This was, Bath Time says JX looks like some high priest of PowerPoint. It's great. I love it. Bath Time says, big up the lads. How were the first 3 episodes? You happy? Are we happy? I think I'm happy. I don't think I'm as happy as I expected to be. I'm a little bit shaky on some of the plot points, but overall, I'd say I'm still happy. I'm still going to tune in next week.
I have realistic expectations when it comes to Star Wars. I hope for the best, but I know what average Star Wars is. I don't look at it through rose-colored glasses. I know that Star Wars can be pretty dumb sometimes, and it's gonna have it's gonna have moments like those soldiers at the beginning, like the rebels who were starving, the Marvel characters. Like, well, this feels like a note that they added because somebody complained last season that it wasn't as lighthearted. And so they used the fact that they had these this collection of characters who needed to kill 2 episodes because Cassian can't get home. They just needed to kill 1 episode.
He needs to arrive precisely when he means to for the rescue mission at the end of episode 3, so we can end it on
just too late. Because the guy with the beard dies. 12.
Yeah, that guy with the beard who we still don't know his name.
Here's the thing. I don't know his name, but it's hard to watch season 1 and not recognize him.
So the Brasso, other guy, Brasso is the character.
Yeah, the younger guy who's with them, I would not have recognized if I didn't do the second watch through, because I didn't. He was the guy whose dad was killed by the torture machine, who must have met the guy who got betrayed with his 30 men. Krieger, who should have been in that season.
Bath Time says, how many episodes will there be? So, like season 1, there'll be 12 episodes. So we're going to get 4 complete arcs, which is going to be pretty cool. Let's talk about that scene, shall we? The scene that's got all Star Wars fans in a bit of a hullabaloo at the moment. Arguments on both sides, squabbling against each other. I feel like this was a carefully constructed plan from either Disney or whatever to push this controversial subject matter to get people talking. And to that end,
which one?
They succeeded. The attempted rape scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought we were. I missed that. I thought we were still on the jungles.
So just going back to like the farm stuff, the Imperials are coming in, as I mentioned, to check visas and to do an inspection. And you've got Bix, you've got Brasso, and you've got the other guy that are trying to get moved to another part of the planet on another job to avoid this inspection. You get this very, very creepy Imperial officer guy that shows up, and we were chatting about this very, very vaguely this morning. We did, as I said, we didn't talk about it.
I was getting rape vibes from him. I was like, they clearly, they honestly kind of gave away that he was going to try to rape her.
Yeah. So like, you mentioned that,
formulating, okay, how is this going to go?
Yeah.
And there were actually a couple ways I thought it could have. Either Cassian was going to show up. She was either what was going to happened, or it was going to go the bad way because she was going to get a flash of the torture doctor in his place after she hit her head.
Yeah. Brinsley says as well, I knew that guy was a creep the moment he tried to approach Bix the first time when she was alone. Yeah, he's
Didn't you hear the background music?
Yeah. He reminds me of, and I compared this to Braveheart earlier, but in Braveheart, there's that creepy English officer that's patrolling through the villages, and he sees Mora, and he's like, "Oh, you remind me of my daughter back home." And then there's an attempted rape scene with that as well. This scene has got everyone talking. Now, I'm guessing you hadn't seen the controversy and all the articles and all the arguments online before watching this episode, right?
No.
I don't even know if you've seen all of that stuff
The
now.
closest,
But it's
the
got...
most I got, no, I haven't seen it now, but the closest I got to it was a post by Star Wars Story that said, "Man, the third episode of Andor was dark," and I stopped reading.
Watching Theory's video on this, I know what he's trying to get at, but he really, really fumbles the pass of how he's talking about this. He's saying, like, you get evil in Star Wars. Like, Vader killed a room full of children. He choked a pregnant woman, but there's different levels of evil. And Vader would...
Theory!
But he's like, Vader would...
What the fuck are you doing?
But he's like, Vader would never allow his officers to rape people. I'm like, Vader wouldn't even...
Vader doesn't give a shit!
Vader doesn't give a shit. Vader wouldn't know about any of these guys. A lot of these officers probably haven't even seen Vader in person. Evil exists.
Vader's a propaganda.
Like, some officers will just abuse their power.
I don't think Vader's real. I think he's just a guy in a costume that the Emperor hired.
But it's like...
Yavin was an inside job.
So, someone put in the comments, they said, like, Theory, maybe, like... So, if Hitler didn't rape anyone... Like, does that make him like just a different level of evil? Like, does he get a free pass for that? Because he did, like, Hitler killed a lot of people, but at least he didn't rape anyone that we know.
Yeah, I mean, he probably did, but you know,
innocent until proven guilty, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I
you're missing a couple zeros.
Yeah, Brinsley said, let's bring this up. Vader has killed thousands of people, and the Empire literally imprisons people and works them to death. Why would they care about one officer abusing their power? Exactly. And the thing is as well that...
billions.
I watched Ryan Kinnell's
coverage.
I watched Ryan Kinnell's coverage on this as well, and he basically sums up my thoughts, is that this is just... He just said, this is a big nothing burger that people are getting bent out of shape about. He makes advances at her. There's a bit of awkward like hand holding, and he pins her up against a wall, but then it turns into a fight. She beats him, and that's the scene over. Like, if this had like tits and ass, and like he was like ripping her clothes off, and we had like full frontal in Star Wars,
that would be...
That's a different story.
We're getting to Game of Thrones level.
There's different degrees of this. As it was, like,
Game of Thrones also has like not rape nudity.
Yeah. As it was, I thought this was handled perfectly fine. It felt perfectly in keeping within the world that Andor has set up. And I think that's where the disconnect is. Now, would you get this stuff...
It fits the tone of Andor.
Yeah. Would you get this stuff in the mainline Star Wars movies? No, but I don't see why shows like this that are geared more towards an adult audience can't go in this direction. Yeah, as I mentioned, if they went really extreme with it, really fucking graphic, and Bix gets her tits out, I mean, I'd be like, oh, hello, there they are. But also it'd be like, this really isn't Star Wars now. I can see why people are... I think it's an interesting debate to have, because you have the likes of the hardcore George Lucas, fandom, who said that Star Wars is escapism and it's made for 12-year-olds. I can totally see that. So that this really doesn't line up with that. But also, right from the off, season 1, episode 1 of Andor, this is Star Wars for adults. And I think it's fine to go this direction, especially a series that grounds itself in this is what the rise of fascism looks like, and this is what really happens in war and situations similar to this.
It's pretty horrible.
Yeah. It's not glamorous.
No. Excuse me. Oh shit! I just lost it.
But you just have these people saying like sexual assault in Star Wars, like, oh, blah, 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 like we can't have this. This is abhorrent.
You said, no, thank you for saying that, because that reminds. So you said you wouldn't want something like this in the mainline movies. Now hear me out. Saga edit. if we decided to get rid of the Chosen One prophecy, it feels like with a line like "there
I know
was
what you're
no
saying.
father,"
Yeah.
you kind of implied something happened.
Well, no, you could say,
Like,
who
he
was the
could have also,
father? And she just turns away and looks really uncomfortable about it.
yeah. Although also there's an edit that gets rid of the Chosen One prophecy, keeps the "there was no father" line, has her being sad, and also gives Sebulba a line. Well, it changes the subtitle to, you're gonna die like your no good, lousy father.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a pod racer who died in the races, which actually lends some stuff to Shmi not wanting him to race.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of things you can do with it. Bath Time says, rape is genuinely far more upsetting to see on screen than murder, though. I'm fine with murder in The Sopranos, but the rape scene was horrific. So I haven't seen The Sopranos, but sort of in a
I
similar
should see
vein
The
to that,
Sopranos.
this reminded me, because it's got the same actor in it. You've seen True Romance, right?
Yes.
You know that scene where he makes advances, doesn't he? And there's that big fight where he's beating her up in the motel room, and then she gains the upper hand and beats him back. It's more in the vein of that. That's a lot more violent than what we see here, but it's more that I think it's totally in keeping with
But
the
it fit with
world.
the tone of True Romance. Yeah.
Yeah. Brinsley says, I mean, you can comment on this. He says, I think Americans in
No, they're
general are very
yeah, no,
uncomfortable seeing any sex
they
scenes or
are.
assault on screen, but are completely fine seeing people get murdered. It's interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting
It's
disconnect, I guess we have.
definitely. I think this might be somewhat telling, but I think that's more right leaning Americans. But you're not far off.
Mm-hmm. And then basically all the points I'm going to raise now are stuff that I've gleaned from Ryan Kinnell's coverage, so I can't take credit for any of this. But he did raise some interesting points that I wanted to fire across to you. In that, although it hasn't been completely overt, there has been references to rape in the old expanded
Oh yeah,
universe and Legends.
yep.
I believe Boba Fett's
In-
wife, and that's why I
I was
mentioned the
gonna
name of,
say, including Sintas Val,
which is interesting because the lesbian couple in this, you have Val
Sinta
and
and Val.
Cinta. Yeah. As far as I'm aware, she was raped by an officer, but she didn't want to make a big song and dance about it because it would damage her reputation. Boba Fett found out about this, killed the guy, and then they were banished, and then eventually she left him anyway, I think is the story.
Yeah, it was specifically. I think it was their officer in their Mandalorian clan, because being the Mandalorian of Legends, he was the Mandalorian. He was a Mandalorian in Legends.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of prefer him not as a Mandalorian in canon, because where would that have even really come from for him? Like, you have him raised as a bounty hunter by his father, and then, as Filoni put it, well, why does he wear Mandalorian armor then? Well, that's the armor his dad.
Yeah.
Like, his dad wore Mandalorian armor, so he got more Mandalorian armor because he loves his dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think my sock is inside out. There's a thread poking out weird.
Ryan Kittle also mentioned this, that there are sexual references, probably not as, I mean, this wasn't even graphic, but this was a lot more adult, I suppose. But where Jabba makes advances to Leia, and he mentioned that in the novelization,
Leia, actually, that's a good point.
In the novelization, apparently it's a lot
raped
more.
by a slug.
Yeah. Now in the
in
movie,
the
he just
novelization,
pulls her in close, doesn't he? Just pulls her in close and like licks his lips, like really just disgusting and whatnot. But apparently in the novelization, he plants like a full-on kiss on her and says that he's basically just going to pass her around and get as much pleasure out of her as he can with the time that they have.
Yeah, that's the same book that that has. We decided you would be safe with my brother Owen on Tatooine.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's cool. Yeah. And then in his chat with Theory, this is the last point I'll make. He mentions the cancelled Star Wars. Was it called Underworld? That the show that George Lucas was trying to get off the ground, that it was going to cover much more of the low level Coruscant, the seedy lifestyle, the debauched lifestyle of people. There was going to be hookers. There was going to be drugs. It was probably going to be more violent. That was probably.
Anybody here read Shadow of the Empire? That is a horny book.
That was probably going to deal with subject matter like that, and even Lucas's cancelled sequel trilogy ideas that he had, where he was going to have Darth Talon, who, I mean, look at her, she's like smoking hot, right? And yeah, and she uses her sexuality and her feminine wiles to corrupt people and bring them over to the dark side, which was going to be the story of her turning Skylar, Han Solo, and Leia's son over to the dark side. It would have dealt with themes like that.
You just reminded me of so in Legacy of the in Legacy of the Force, you get like a 16, 17-year-old Tahiri Vela trying to seduce 14-year-old Ben Skywalker to the dark side, how you just described. And it is fucking disturbing. Like, I was at work. This is when I worked my retail job. So I was like, just kind of freaking out in the aisles. Like, no, stop, like gripping the shelves, like, stop. I'd love to get the security footage from that day. Actually, thinking about it, it's gone. It's got to be gone. They clear it at the end of the week if anybody wants to break in there. But yeah, that happened, and because I listened to Fate of the Jedi before that, which has Tahiri Vela on trial for being Jason Solo's apprentice. And that makes that a little bit harder to go with.
Oh God, Bath Time says maybe he was going to do the same to Han Solo when he defrosted him.
See, this is what we're talking about. We need these segues.
Bath Time said, I got to bring this up. It's such a strong aesthetic from JX tonight. I keep thinking it's like one of the Dharma videos from Lost. Now, I don't believe you've seen Lost. Are you aware of the whole Dharma videos? Not. Okay.
I do not.
Can you just say this? Can you just say namaste?
How do you want me to say namaste?
Like you're signing off, like it's a farewell at the end of the speech.
Okay. So, am I closing off? Am I saying this to people who genuinely say namaste, or am I ending a YouTube video?
The commune of people that watch your YouTube video say namaste. It's like your thing.
Namaste.
That's beautiful. Thank you. There you go, Bath Time. I hope that makes a fellow Lost fan happy. Tobias says Ventress in the Clone Wars. That's a great point, actually. Literally murders someone and makes out with them in the same moment. I think, you know what? I think I can see where people are coming from. Where this
I think one animator had a bit of a chub.
I can see where people are coming from with this argument, because you know what?
Yeah, I see where they're coming from, but I disagree with them.
I see where they're coming from, but as a Tolkien fan, I would have the same problem if this was done in a similar way and something Tolkien related.
Well, Morgoth raped the moon or the sun. Morgoth rapes the sun.
He kind of has like a Jabba's palace moment with Luthien as well, where she enters his chamber.
Oh, he does.
He's like, "You will sing and dance for." He's Palpatine now. I don't know why I gave him that voice.
I mean, that's not the worst voice to give Morgoth.
I remember
specifically Morgoth, not Melkor.
I remember a time where Rings of Power was going into production, and we were getting drip fed some information. And they mentioned that they were going to have, what's it called, like an intimacy coach or something for season 1. And everyone lost their shit, myself included, thinking, are we going to have sexy time in Lord of the Rings in Middle-earth? Like, we don't do that here. People don't fuck. I mean, they do, but they do it behind closed doors and, in holy matrimony and wedlock.
Oh, yeah, no. Aragorn lived out in the forest. Like, he lived in the wilderness. We know for a fact Aragorn unstrapped his sword, untied his trousers, dropped trow, and took a shit in the woods. We don't need to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Undeniably, that has happened.
Yes.
We can't say it didn't happen, but we didn't need to see it. Does Aragorn shit in the woods?
The bit where they hide from the Crebain in Fellowship and they're on all those rocks. You know that, like, Boromir took a leak over there or something,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
of course.
we just don't need to see it. It's fine.
Yeah,
We did see
in the Fortress
we
of
did see
Solitude.
people pissing in Andor season 1 though. Do you remember when Val and I keep forgetting her name. Fucking hell. Cinta are hiding in those rocks, and there's the two troopers that walk
And
past and
somebody
take a
comes
leak.
out and pisses near the rocks. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, no,
So,
that's probably the only time I'd be like, oh yeah, okay. Like you really can't like it's just a thing. It doesn't like pissing is the most natural way to get them in that situation.
yeah. And
Put
again,
that
it's
on a
like
shirt.
it is that disconnect, because if there was an attempted rape scene in like a Lord of the Rings show or anything Middle Earth related, that would get my hackles up, and I would probably be in the same
Depends on
camp
the
that
Middle Earth.
some people.
I mean, not in episode 1, but if they establish themselves as this darker toned, Middle Earth series with Graugs and Tarks and rapey orcs.
The
Which I
only thing
mean,
I could think of
there
was where they said they needed an
orcs
intimacy
probably
coach.
did some rapes. Now that I think about it, actually,
Probably. I mean, there's that moment in
if
The
there were
Hobbit
orc
where
babies, then orcs have a
Bolg.
sexual drive.
There's that. Well, yeah, yeah. There's that moment where Bolg in the Hobbit film picks up Tariel by the neck and then kind of like licks his lips, like in a kind of vaguely sexual way. That, or he's gonna like taste man flesh, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, that they also do eat them. That is a good.
Yeah,
That's oh, thank you for pointing that out.
so that's technically
Yeah.
cannibalism, although they've become a subspecies
Mm,
by that point through decades and millennia of torture and inbreeding.
Well, wait. Can an orc and an elf have a child, and can that child go on to have children? Because if so, then they are considered the same species.
So I mean,
Because
you
a
have half
mule
elven
cannot have
characters,
children.
don't you? You have mortals and elves be fucking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, but and that means technically they're the same species.
Yeah,
Like scientifically, elves and
yeah.
humans are the same species. They're just different classifications.
hmm But when I saw
And
the
so
whole intimacy coach thing be announced, I was thinking,
oh, right.
where
That's what we're
where
talking
in Tolkien's mythology could this work? And I thought, well, they're going to do Numenor, and I know there's human sacrifice, and there's probably like the last days of Rome. There's probably like orgies and shit that happened, like really satanic, devilish Morgoth worshipping shit. And that's the only thing that I could think of. I don't need to see that, but that was the only thing that I could think of.
13-year-old Arwen's going to kiss the shards of Narsil.
Oh no! Oh, that was a thing, wasn't it? Yeah. But I can
John's
see what
Mormon
Bath
script.
Time's
Yeah.
saying here, because Bath Time knows what's up. Bath Time knows the meaning behind the story and the parallels to the hero's journey and everything. Like, he gets this shit, and this is what it split the fandom again, hasn't it? Which Disney love doing. It's a talking point, and he mentions it here. To me, it seems completely out of place in Star Wars and an egregious bit of rage bait. I definitely think the rage baiting is there from Disney putting this in there, and that's kind of spelled out by a lot of the articles that's come out about this, where Disney have gone on to say, "Oh, we felt it was important and brave of us to bring this into Star Wars and to talk about this." There's a bunch of articles like Variety and Entertainment Weekly and stuff that have talked about this, where we felt it was necessary to bring this into Star Wars because this happens in our everyday and we wanted to bring it here. And I get that on the one hand, Star Wars, you want to forget about the everyday. You want to just have escapism and go to a galaxy far, far away. And you have all of like the fantastical and spiritual elements that come with it and the cool action scenes and whatnot, the key jangly moments sometimes. I get it. I get that argument. There are arguments on both sides, and that's why I think it's a fascinating thing to bring up on our conversation tonight on the live stream. But for me, though, I didn't get bent out of shape about it watching Andor, because I even said this during season 1 when I was watching it, in that I'm so disillusioned by Star Wars now at this point. I don't know if that's the right word, but just I'm done with Star Wars. It is dead to me. Star Wars is dead to me, and I've reached acceptance with that. I have the George Lucas movies, and I have a few of the games and other assorted things that I like as well. So when Andor came out, and it was a breath of fresh air, and it was a different take on it, and it was more adult, and I was watching it just thinking, this is just a war drama that I'm watching, a very, very well written, good character driven TV show that just happens to have a Star Wars aesthetic to it. And in a way, I still kind of watch it in that way. I am watching it in terms of just really good TV and good drama that just happens to have Star Wars stuff in it, like TIE fighters and stormtroopers and references to the Emperor and whatnot. But that does very, very quickly fade to the back of my mind when I watch this show. So I have an inherent disconnect with it, I guess. And I know some people won't. Some people will still want to bring this into the world of Rebels and Clone Wars and Skeleton Crew and Mandalorian and whatnot. So I do get it. I get it, but it didn't bother me at all. And she wins and she beats him.
Yeah, I mean, she's not being defined by her trial from her trauma from last season, which I think is good.
It does suck because Bix really can't catch a break. She got like horrific torture by listening to audio of children dying in like a mass genocide.
Yeah, she's a bit of a punching bag for the writers now that I think about it.
And then she finally gets back on her feet.
One of them.
Yeah, I know. And then there's like an attempted rape scene now. Like, oh god.
Yeah.
Let's bring up some more of these.
Do I have any more notes?
Yeah. If you have any more notes, just fire them across.
Oh, I turned out to be wrong because I watched the first episode again. There was a guy at the wedding who Luthen is talking to about his backstory, and he looks like one of the Imperial propaganda officers. He's not.
Oh, okay.
He is not one of the Imperial. He just looks like it. He looks a lot like it, actually. Actually, he looks like the perfect blend of both of the Imperial propaganda officers. Excuse me, my lips fell apart there. But if Luthen was talking, if he was, because he was talking about how he's from Gorman, and he's had this history, this childhood, and I was like, if he was talking to anyone besides Luthen, I would have thought he was secretly a rebel.
Mm-hmm.
But he's talking to Luthen, so he's not. I love when Luthen is chatting up the guest who's from a flight academy. He's like, "Where are they going?"
Yeah. Tell me more. It's like, Luthen, keep it subtle. Hello.
But keep it subtle.
It's like, where are they going? Tell me everything you know.
His eyes are so wide.
Mm-hmm. Bath Time says, I always felt it would have added so much to Lord of the Rings if Saruman had done a huge piss off Isengard.
Dun dun dun. Dun,
break the dam, release the river.
I've been showing my roommate's cousin the Lord of the Rings. He turns out he hasn't seen those.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah. Well, extended edition, of course.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what you got to go for. What's the what's that rhyme that Sam does for Gandalf? Oh yeah, it's the finest rockets ever seen. They burst in stars of blue and green, or after thunder, golden showers. That's in the text. Came falling like a rain of flowers. See, I don't even need to do a pun on that. It writes itself, doesn't it? So
that's a good fit. Oh no, it's no good enough.
That time it would recontextualize meats back on the menu. Oh no. Oh no. Mortals and elves is an act of divinity in some ways because of Elrond.
Oh, did that like cross the species and suddenly rules had to be rewritten?
Yeah, they crossed the streams, didn't they? Yeah.
Wait, when is this No, because before them you've got
was Beren and Luthien.
Exactly.
And you have no, Eärendil and Elwing, that's different, isn't it?
That's later.
Oh, he makes the choice, doesn't he? They make the choice. Yeah. Brinsley says this is a great conversation to listen to while playing a game. Did you mention, Brinsley, which game you're playing? What are you playing through at the moment? Bathtime says, does the rape scene have any real repercussions beyond villainizing someone? I think that might be a good measuring stick for if it's needed or not. Oh, that's a good point. I think it is just a villainizing thing, isn't it, really?
It's certainly a fair measuring stick to use. However, the fact that it's depicted in a way that's directly tied to a real life problem that is also being depicted in the show, and it's being depicted like it's the problem that they're showing us in the show is a real life problem, and then the rape in that connected to that problem is also connected to the real life problem. And
I
Star Wars
could,
has
yeah.
always been this reflection of reality. And to say, you hear these stories, you talk about Vikings, about reaving and raping, and those are two really horrible things. But when just talked about abstractly like that, you're picturing this fun romp with guys with horny helmets and axes going, yeah. It's like, no, this is the worst thing imaginable.
I could have done without the line where she came out of the hut and just said, "He tried to rape me." I could have done without that line. That felt like it was a bit
I was
too
I was
on
a
the
little like
nose.
I get what you mean. I had some feelings about that line. I was like, okay, so we're actually using the word and we're calling it that. I don't think I had a problem with it. I wasn't sure if they were going to do that. However, I think it needed to be like her saying that, and then his response, his response to her saying he tried to rape me was he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
I think that exchange, like, we needed to remorseless, like, he was willing to excuse the fact that he did that because she killed him. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, what you did is worse. Which is, like, ironically, the exact opposite of the sentiment of Star Wars theory.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting thing that Bath Time brings up, though, is that does it actually have any repercussions? And I guess the repercussions
We'll
that
find out.
you can mention are that because of this altercation, it all kicks off. Shots are fired. A stormtrooper actually lands a shot and kills Brasso, the bearded guy.
Well, I would say that you've got two disconnected events
Mm-hmm.
that get tied together by Cassian, but Brasso's death doesn't really. Brasso's death is because it like doesn't really connect to the rape scene, other than the fact that he's in a position to get killed sets her up to be vulnerable for that.
Mm-hmm. I think Bix is going for the Holy Trinity. She got mind raped in season 1. She got attempted body raped in this season. So we need a
What's the
soul
third
rape
one?
now. Mind, body, and soul. How is she going to be soul raped?
I think you get turned to the dark side.
There you go.
Oh, actually, now okay. I just it's going back to talking about Dark Forces, Jedi Outcast, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when the 3 stormtroopers are walking down the street in Mos Eisley in A New Hope, and there's a blonde woman in a robe right next to them?
Vaguely, yeah, I think so.
She is a Dark Jedi working for the Inquisitor Cedrus in Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knights. She is from the planet Droman Kos, and she was she was pretty regularly sexually assaulted by her tribe of Sith that raised her.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
including, like, she had no idea which of the men that raped her was her father. She knew it was definitely one of them,
Mm-hmm.
because that was just their society.
This is what I mean. Like, we haven't seen this in the mainline visual medium Star Wars before, but it
But it has
exists
been a
in,
part of this.
yeah. But I can see why something like this has got people
I can
bent
see
out
why,
of shape.
I can see why people don't like The Last Jedi. I disagree with them, because I think because people who don't like The Last Jedi don't like what The Last Jedi does. And that's a perfectly valid reason to not like it. People who don't like this don't like what it's doing. They don't like the darker tones. They don't like the lack of Jedi and shooting. They don't like the complexity. Well, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna go so far as to say they don't like complexity, but they don't necessarily think it's doing what it's doing bad. They think what it's doing isn't Star Wars.
And isn't that quite telling? It's that, you know, we have a show here that, in my opinion anyway, is one of the best things to be written in the Star Wars canon, expanded universe, just Star Wars in general. Like, really good performances, fantastic cinematography, everything that goes along with it. And you got people that, yeah, but this doesn't feel like Star Wars. So what is Star Wars then? Let's define that. So have we got to have a simplified, dumbed down?
No, that's what Star Wars is. Star Wars is a setting.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the end of the discussion as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can tell literally any story and make it a Star Wars story by changing the setting to Star Wars.
Yeah. It's like, you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. If someone watches this show and says, I don't like it, that's fair enough. But you got to look at their criticisms. And sometimes, you know, you'll see, I don't want to single out Theory, but he's the most prominent, whatever.
Yeah, no, he's got the numbers.
His arguments for it are just so just piss weak. Like, he just really, you know, and then he'll watch an episode of Ahsoka and just like, oh, this is the best shit ever. I'm like, oh, you can't compare these shows. Well, you can. One's an actually well-written show and one isn't. But
I mean, I think that's I think that's an apt comparison. You can't really compare these shows because one of them's for kids and the other one is it's like one of them is for kids and the other one is genuinely not for kids.
That shouldn't be. You shouldn't be able to distinguish the two in terms of writing quality, though. Just because it's for kids doesn't mean that it has to be not written as well.
I stand by the whole. It's like Andor is really well written Star Wars, but to assume that all Star Wars is going to be as well written as Andor is just setting yourself up for failure.
I know, but it's like, why can't we? Why can't we though? Even if it's aimed for kids, like there are some fantastic films.
All going to be. It's literally because of the plot of The Incredibles.
I know what you're saying with Syndrome's line there, but I don't know. I think if we had quality stuff and that was just what we were getting every single time, I don't think anyone would be having a problem with that. I really don't.
But Chris, what is quality stuff? Because you've got people who are saying this isn't Star Wars, and I love Ahsoka. And I love Skeleton Crew. And Star Wars is a setting because it has such a dynamic fan base that you cannot define it. It is impossible to define it without pissing somebody off.
Agreed, but I think you can still screenplay side by side. I think you can still base writing quality in an objective way. If something is well written, it makes sense. There's no plot holes.
You can definitely take you can definitely compare writing quality and most certainly. But I'm just saying
what I'm referring to.
I'm with you there. The Ahsoka really suffered from the fact that it's not being its own thing. It's Rebels season 5, but with no context. It's offering none of the context.
I remember watching Ahsoka,
you would like the show better if you had not you in particular. I think people would like they would have liked Ahsoka better if if we had gotten some of those scenes from Rebels as context. Like, if you had literally opened the series with the last 5 minutes of Rebels, so we know this is who Ezra is, this is why Ezra is missing, this is who Thrawn is, this is why Thrawn is a threat, and this is our main character's connections to both. And this is why they are doing what they are doing this season.
It's not just that. I just remember watching literally the first scene, the first couple of minutes of Ahsoka, and I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. And already I was scratching my head over what the characters were doing and the situation and why things were happening.
Exactly.
Do you remember?
Imagine if you had gotten if you had gotten the scene of this oh, who are these people? And then it's over, and you've been given context, and the scene is over, and then we're moving on to something else. But the context from that scene that you have been given. You don't have the context of what that scene was necessarily, but at least the context provided by the scene sets you up for everything else.
I'm not even referring to that. I'm talking
Like
about. Do you
the
remember
beginning of a James Bond movie.
Do you remember the bit at the beginning where you have the enemy ship, and they're like, "That's an enemy ship, and that's a trap. Let's welcome that ship in. They're ambassadors. Let's bring them in with open arms." And already I'm like, what kind of plan is this? And then they act shocked when Balin and Shin Hati are just like cutting through everyone. I'm like, well, that was a stupid fucking decision.
No, that made sense. No. Consider that they explain that pretty well. They're like, this is clearly two Imperials using an old Jedi frequency to get on board our ship.
So let's let them aboard the ship.
They're not expecting them to actually be Jedi.
Dude, they know they're their enemy. Why would you let them onto your ship in the first place?
To imprison them?
That's such a stupid fucking plan.
Wait a second. So what are you saying they should have done? Just blow them up? You want the rebels to just start...
So they're assuming that there's like 2 people on there. Or what if there was like a whole armada of an army in that ship?
Remember all those troops that were right behind him that they started cutting through when at the end of that scene, because they realized they were grossly unprepared for actual Jedi, but they were ready to arrest the 2 people that were on the ship?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, what if there was like 100 people in that ship? What if they were all armored and guns and blasters?
The ship couldn't have fit 100 people. The amount of people that were behind him was significantly more than you would need to arrest 2 people. Probably enough people to arrest however many that ship could hold.
Okay, what if there were like massive alien creatures in there? Humanoid, but could like rip people apart or something. What if they were in the ship? It's big enough for 2.
Guns.
Oh, let them into the... How about you just don't let them into the ship?
Because you have to put them in prison.
How about you ground the ship?
Because these are Imperials.
How about you call for backup?
What do you mean ground the ship? They're in space. Where are you ground? Where is the ground other than in the ship that they're in?
You can not disassemble. You can like shoot at the ship. You can ground the... When I say ground the ship, I mean make it inactive, like it can't go anywhere. That is a thing. That is a thing that you can do in Star Wars.
I'm sure it is, but again, there's nothing wrong with the plan that they had if the knowledge that they had minus the knowledge they don't have. Like, their plan would have worked if they were right. Like, if the knowledge that they assumed was right, it was a perfectly reasonable plan.
That ship has enemies on board. I'm fairly certain of it. Let them in, and and then bad shit starts happening, and then they act really shocked about it. You could have just... What if they just left them?
Let them in. We have to... Chris, what is the alternative? They're the equivalent of a Star Destroyer. They're a Mon Calamari cruiser. They are the superior force here. They don't need to ground this shuttle. They're not expecting it to have 2 fucking Jedi on it. They're expecting it to have, at most, a squad of stormtroopers. Maybe really good stormtroopers. But again, the forces that they brought would have sufficed. They can't just shoot it down. That's a war crime.
Do you remember in Andor Series 1, a series that is actually written very, very well, where you have that moment where Luthen's in the ship, and they say, right, turn off. No, he says, turn off your engines now. We're beaming you in. We're grounding you.
We're tracking you. Wait, I'm sorry. Wait. We're doing what? We're doing what with we're wetting you in? We're wetting you in?
Well, they gave him the command to stop.
They were pulling him into the ship?
Well, I don't think it was letting him on board, was it? They just pulled the ship in.
How the fuck did you think they were going to get a boarding crew on that ship if they weren't going to bring him into the ship?
Did they say they were going to board it?
Yes.
I thought they were just monitoring people leaving on and off the planet.
No, they were going to board and search the ship. They were getting a crew. They were getting a scanning crew ready on the double.
But at least it's on that ship. You're not bringing it into your ship.
No. How the fuck do you think they were going to get the crew onto his ship if not docking him onto their ship?
Fair
Moving
enough.
on. Now
Did
I
they
think
even
we
did
gotta
they
we
even
gotta
issue a
wrap.
commando to turn their ship off? Did they do that in Ahsoka?
So in Ahsoka, they were like, should we just tell them to? They literally asked if they should do that. And like, they're trying to do this whole Jedi spiel. Let's just play along and then arrest them when let them think it's working and then arrest them,
That's that.
which
Okay,
is a
that's not.
very Filoni character thing to do.
See, that's the disconnect. That's where the disconnect's happening with me with shit like that. Anyway,
Yeah, no, it's definitely, you're gonna see if the problem is, oh, this person is humoring their enemy, and that ends up getting them killed, then absolutely, that's a fair assessment. That's a fair thing to not like. But the logic behind humoring the enemy was there.
mm-hmm. So going back to that scene, Bath Time says you couldn't, for example, have John Wick without him seeing the dog get it. It needs to serve a dramatic purpose as well as reflecting real world issues to be justified for me. Yeah, because I mean, Bix already hated the Empire. Now I guess she just has an even stronger reason to hate the Empire. Yeah, we're going to need to see where it leads to and if that actually does service her character in any way. Bathtime says The Empire Strikes Back is the most literal interpretation of the hero's journey I've ever seen. Star Wars is archetypes at its heart. I agree. It's the best Star Wars film for
A
me.
New Hope
Not my
might
favorite.
have that would be as far as hero's journey.
Yeah, it's someone leaving home, isn't it, and going into this wider world.
You don't know what you're talking about, Chris. You haven't watched that video. This is between me and Bath Time right now.
Well, it's more for the fact, like the cave, right? What the cave symbolizes that he goes into in Dagobah, that Luke travels into and emerges a different person.
Which stage of the hero's journey is that called?
I'll get there. I'll get there at some point.
I'm trying to get him ready for you. I promise. He's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Get me ready for him. You make me sound like I'm some like perfumed up showgirl or something. Like
oh god, I gotta tell you the leprechaun joke when we're done. Maybe I'll close out the stream with the leprechaun joke. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Definitely not in poor taste. Definitely not the worst taste, actually, considering that scene with Bix.
Bath Time says, using the original 6 films, it's fairly easy to define what Star Wars is, I think.
Really? Because then why do people draw the line with after the first 3?
Yeah, I think each trilogy, maybe you can sort of take on its own merits.
Which means that Andor should also be taken on its own merits.
But definitely there's a story being told there. If someone asks me what is the story of the sequel trilogy, I don't have a fucking answer for you because there isn't a story. There's nothing. Like, what's the overarching story of the original trilogy? Okay, well, it's Luke's call to adventure. It's him redeeming his father and the story of fathers and sons and good versus evil.
Oh, well, wait. No. In one sentence. If you're making this point, you really got to do it in one sentence. And you can do it. I'm just saying you're getting too specific and you're losing your point.
Okay, so I posit to you then, one sentence. What's the story of the original trilogy? We'll separate it into trilogies.
The hero's journey.
Okay. What is this?
Actually, no. Let's go because I've got another one. The hero's journey.
Well, I think it's like family. It's like fathers and sons, isn't it?
No. Keep ask me about the next one.
Okay, prequel trilogy.
Dune.
The prequel trilogy?
Yes.
Chosen One turns evil.
Wait. Okay. Sorry. Let me rephrase. Dune Messiah.
What's the story of the sequel?
I promise.
What's the story of the sequel trilogy?
Star Wars. No. The sequel trilogy is as derivative of Star Wars as Star Wars is of Dune. That was really kind of what I was getting.
But just like generally like the overarching themes, obviously you have like Anakin's rise and his fall in the prequels.
Can't give you some. There are some massive specifics I really can't give you, Chris.
But genuinely, like the sequel trilogy, I don't know what the story is of that, because each film is completely at odds with it, and no film builds up from the other one. Really, each one kind of hits the hard reset button.
No, I would say that the first two make up the beginning of like this essay about Star Wars. Except the first one didn't know it was part of an essay, and then the third one just tries to do what the first one did again. Like by trying to be unequivocally Star Wars, The Force Awakens set itself up to be this beginning of an essay, but it was never finished. And if you're not into that, if you don't want a Star Wars trilogy about Star Wars, because that's not what 1 through 6 are. They're not about Star Wars. They're in Star Wars.
I wouldn't even say Episode 7 is an essay about Star Wars or setting up an essay about Star Wars, because there's no world building in that movie.
The Episode 7 isn't an essay about Star Wars until Episode 8. It wasn't an essay about Star Wars until Episode 8 already came out, and then I was like, okay, like this is because you've got this thing that's just this very derivative, unequivocally Star Wars thing, and then you have this breakdown of Star Wars and why Star Wars is great, and why Star Wars sort of needs to outgrow its own shadow. And in order to do that, you need to start with what Star Wars is. And so that's why I think The Last Jedi works as a follow-up to The Force Awakens. But if The Force Awakens wasn't The Force Awakens, you could have done something completely different with the whole trilogy.
Whereas I feel like The Last Jedi came in and they just took a Sharpie and just scribbled all over the page and turned it in. That's
I don't know how anyone can actually say that after seeing The Rise of Skywalker. It's like, that's pretty blatantly what was going on there.
The Rise of Skywalker is in the same ballpark for me as Batman and Robin. It is some campy, dumb shit.
Right,
but I can just throw on.
I don't care about that. I'm just saying it's literally them taking a Sharpie to the previous movie.
And in some ways, the Force Awakens as well.
The Last Jedi takes the Force Awakens to a different place than you probably would have thought watching the Force Awakens, but it doesn't fundamentally change the Force Awakens.
J.J. Abrams doesn't pay
The
off
Rise of Skywalker literally is like it tries to utterly recontextualize the big reveal into another big reveal. Like
J.J. Abrams
that
doesn't
is the equivalent of rewriting.
J.J. Abrams set up the Knights of Ren. I blame Rian Johnson for not including them in any way, and his attitude was, "Well, I didn't create them. I don't care. You got handed the baton. Do fucking something with it." And he didn't.
It's also a bit of a breakdown of what it's a bit of a critique of mystery box writing. It's just like, hey, just so you know, before this was even written, the box was always empty.
Oh, it was. No, it was completely.
Yeah,
but then, if you're a good writer, do something with it. You could literally do anything with it, and he chose to do nothing with it, which is why it's a really awkward middle. It doesn't really function as a middle chapter to anything.
No, he didn't do nothing with it. He just didn't do what everyone thought he was going to do with it, and
he ignored everything completely. They never even mentioned in the second movie.
Wait, what didn't get mentioned in the second movie?
The Knights of Ren are not mentioned at all in the second movie.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no. The Knights of Ren weren't. I love how Rian Johnson's addressed that, when he's just like, I mean, they could have been the Praetorian Guards, but then they would have just been these generic background guys.
Then don't write it that way, you fuck! No, you don't have to write it that way.
No. Hang on. Because I know how the movie was written. It was written backwards.
Yeah, it was.
But the Knights, as he's put, the Knights of Ren would have been these generic background characters who didn't say anything, and then were killed off in a fight scene at the end.
Then don't write them to be those characters.
Chris, let me fucking finish. And then, in the following movie, that's exactly what they were.
Yeah, I know. There's faults on both. I hate Ryan Johnson for not furthering anything that was set up. Granted, it was just like, here's a
It does.
character.
Like, he
Here's a
100%
collection of
does.
characters. I don't know who those characters are, but I pass it to apparently a much more competent writer to do something with it. Not the most ideal way of handling things,
Wait.
but if you're a competent
Hang
writer,
on.
you could do something with it.
Can we just get Ryan Johnson versus J.J. Abrams as a writer? Ryan Johnson.
Fucking hell, I'll blow my brains out. They're both. I've hated everything that Ryan Johnson has done. Not just Last Jedi. Like, people rave over
You
Looper.
didn't like Brick?
I haven't seen Brick.
Brick is awesome.
I've seen Looper, and I've seen the two.
I haven't seen Glass Onion
movies.
Or no, the second one is Glass Onion, right?
I think I enjoyed Knives Out the first time I watched it, but then after like Last Jedi, I went back and watched it a second time, and then I started to see all those threads unraveling, and it's the same shit.
Oh, like watching Lost after watching The Force Awakens. Yeah, you see the writing style. You see how some. Yeah, no. There was something else that actually very recently I saw that had the same response from me. It was like, oh, this feels like this was written by this guy, and I was like, oh, it was written by this. Hannibal was it was the love child with love child was the brainchild of this brainchild of the same guy who made Pushing Daisies, Wonder Falls, and Dead Like Me, which, if you don't know, are some very good canceled shows.
I never did finish Hannibal. I need to get back to that at some point.
It could end where unlike those other shows I mentioned, it could end where it got canceled.
Brinsley says, "Give me season 5 of Mandalorian with Jack Black, please." Oh, well, you might get him in the movie. Who knows? He might make a comeback.
Let's get Jack Black on Mustafar frying up some ducks or falcons or other birds that are canon,
or chickens.
Not until my sequel edit. I spent years running around the galaxy like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to find the secrets of the Jedi.
Bathsime says,
really wanted to work in an Earth bird.
Bathsime says, to be fair, Andor feels like a companion piece to Star Wars, connected but with separate themes, like a prison camp story. So if you're doing in real life stuff, it does fit to Andor. Yeah, what I'm interested in is I don't think it'll make it. I don't think it will make it a better movie. But I think watching Rogue One at the end of all this, which I think we have planned, I think we mentioned that we might be doing that.
That's the idea.
It'll be interesting, especially with like Cassian's intro, where he guns down that guy, having all of his backstory laid out. And I say, like, knowing what his character is, I'm still trying to find what a character.
Yeah, you still think he was 6 years old last season, so that's there's some confusion there.
HLB says the crazy guy is back. Is that a reference to yourself? Is that a reference to me or JX?
I think I'm the crazy guy.
But there's a smiley face at the end, so I think that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, no, I'm entertaining.
Brinsley says the sequel trilogy is about making.
If I wasn't entertaining.
Brinsley says the sequel trilogy is about making money off the Star Wars brand. I think you could maybe make the same argument for the prequels and things like that. However,
no, like actually, if you wanted to get through like a meta stance and like go with the analysis and the essay, you're not far off.
Bathsime says it's rare being specific it's rare being specific means you lose your point. That's where when we're having that argument about what's the story of the trilogies. It's rare being specific means you lose your point. Well,
because you were saying, like, if you can just answer what is the story, then you can't really, like, that you can't get too specific with that, because otherwise, well, you can do that with literally anything. Once you get
I genuinely can't do it with the sequels, though. Here's the thing, though. I genuinely can't do it with the sequels. It's about Rey.
like you said, it's about this guy finding his father, going story, redeeming his father, stopping the evil empire, going like you got very specific.
Okay, then. So it's a story about a scavenger girl that is trying to find her parents, who she believes
Not just
abandoned her.
a scavenger who's a huge Star Wars fan.
To then be told in the first movie that her parents are never coming back, and we move on, and she needs to find Luke. Then in the next movie, her parents were filthy junk traders who sold her off for drinking money, and her parents are nothing. And then it turns out that her parents were actually, well, one of them was a failed clone.
Those first two things you said didn't contradict, but then I thought you were going to say she cares about her parents in the second one.
Well,
even
what
though
I'm
at the
saying
end
is,
of the,
in the first one, that whole parentage thing, it felt like
they
Maz
say
tied that up in a bow at the end of that.
it did sound like she was trying to tie that up at the end there, yeah. And then you get the whole next 2 years.
Then it's resurrected again in the Last Jedi to then have the switcheroo of, well, actually no, they were nothing. I'm like, well, why bring it up again? We'd already moved past
Chris,
that in the first movie.
It wasn't the switcheroo in the like. I mean, it feels like it wasn't a switcheroo by what you're describing, is what I'm saying. Like, I could see somebody describing it as a switcheroo, but specifically how you're phrasing the points that you are making, I wouldn't say switcheroo, because what you're saying about like how her parents are more or less brushed off in the first one with Maz saying they're not coming back. Filthy junk traders who sold her for drinking money wouldn't be coming back. But there is a switcheroo there from her asking who her parents are in the mirror, and so I guess we're to assume that they're
it sets it up for a big reveal. There's the mystery of the silhouette.
At the same time, before that, Kylo has been setting her up for that failure, because it's saying like they threw you away for drinking money. They threw you away like garbage. And she's like, no, they didn't.
But we know that's not true, because we see the flashback in the first movie where she's like, come back, and like,
and then she ages like 4 years.
Does she?
Right before that, because they have the scene in The Rise of Skywalker where her parents are actually saying, "We will come back for you," and then she's like, and then she starts yelling, "Come back," as if those scenes were right next to each other, even though she is blatantly older.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's like in Rocky. No. It's like in Rocky 5. Like Rocky 4, his son is like this really young kid, like probably maybe like 7 years old or something like that. And then he flies to Russia, flies back, and then all of a sudden it's Sylvester Stallone's real life son in the 5th movie, and he's like a teenager now. And it's meant to take place directly after.
Also, by the way, Star Wars fan has to confront the ever-changing franchise and her troubled past. If I had to put it in a sentence, because I want to include the fact that these are movies about Star Wars. Like, you need to know that going in, because otherwise, if you're looking far past it, you're not gonna. What, like I said it earlier, the most these movies really have to say, the sequels have to say about the real world, is that war profiteering is bad. Oh, and child soldiers is also bad.
Yeah, no shit.
But past that, it's not trying to be anything besides about Star Wars. Although at least, I mean, a lot of the footage in The Force Awakens is derivative of classic Star Wars stuff. I like that we get references to other things through the camera work in The Last Jedi, like you get some Back to the Future, you get never mind.
But what's the context of that? Why? Just because they were movies that Rian Johnson watched the night before he penned the script and was like, oh, that's cool, I'll put that in.
I mean, the specific I mean, which one are we talking about? Are we talking about the Kurt Russell? Are we talking about the Back
No,
to the
I mean
Future?
when George
It
Lucas
just
penned Star Wars, and he was clearly inspired by the works of Kurosawa and a lot of old time movies that he grew up with, Flash Gordon and the adventure serials and whatnot, which he was able to translate into and develop something. But what's like, oh, that shot is it in Wings or something in Canto Bight over the tables? It's like, why? Okay, but why?
But I don't know the one to which you're referring there. I would say, but
It's where the
going
camera moves
more.
between all the casino
No. I know
tables
the
with all the
shot. No,
people.
no, 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 no. I know the shot you're talking about because it's the only one that kind of fits the description of what you said. I just haven't seen Wings. Um, but as far as just
But
like
Back to the Future,
this
then.
is a shot reminiscent of something else, I would point to the Back to the Future thing where the reference doing the thing got across what was meant to be happening in the scene, like this when like
That's
the tone
DJ.
that it's.
You're talking about the DJ scene, right, with the ship?
No, I'm talking about when
Oh, Finn in the fight with Phasma, isn't it?
When Finn rises out from the pit on the thing that the deleted scene takes place on. That's that's a mini the shot is a reference to Back to the Future 2
Yeah,
when
with the
Marty jumps
DeLorean.
off of the building and lands on the DeLorean.
But but my argument is okay, fine, but why? Why? What's
Just
the
the
significance of that?
literally for things like that, it's just because the tone in the shot works and it matches. Versus with the whole battle LA thing at the end. Again, it's literally just the whole like third act is the third act of a, or not but this whole section with Luke and Kylo is from a different movie. I mean, so is the trench run and everything, and like but like it's literally just the ending of a different movie with a Star Wars filter over it. And I mean, the ending of that movie works for what he's doing there. It's Luke not actually being there. He was never a threat to Kylo, and he's just there to distract him, get him angry, apologize, and then let go.
But then also kind of shit talk him as well, which kind of muddies the whole apology thing and
well,
being.
That's for the stalling part.
Yeah, he doesn't sound very sorry. Like, he doesn't seem very apologetic for everything that went down. He doesn't feel like he's bearing his soul to him at the end there. He's like, "See you around, kid," and like smirking at him and like all that shit, like back talking and whatnot.
I was wondering which part you were talking about. I was just like, wait, okay, so because all I could think of was, did you come back to say you forgive me?
Yeah,
to save my soul.
Yeah,
and he's like, no.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Watching that looking back on that, Luke has nothing to forgive. He owes Ben an apology, and he gives him one.
That's the first thing he says, though, isn't it?
What?
Did you come here to like what was the line? Did you come here?
Did you come back to forgive me, to save my soul?
And
Luke
he says
no. Yeah. And then he pulls out the saber and he distracts him. Except he's not there to say he forgives him. He doesn't forgive him. He's sorry. Literally the opposite of forgiving him. He owes Ben an apology. He's not going to be there to like, Ben, it's okay. You can still come back. You just need to accept what you've done and apologize.
With his father, though. That's what he did with his father in Return of the Jedi. I can't. We can't do this. It is half midnight.
No. But that's what that's what he did with his father in Return of the Jedi. He's not doing that here. He's there, he's not there to forgive his nephew. He's there to apologize to his nephew. He forgave his father. He hopes his nephew can one day forgive him. He's there to atone for his own mistakes, not to help Ben atone for his.
But okay, so Vader was like a lot more evil and did a lot more evil things than Kylo Ren's done. His turn to the dark side was much more laid out already, Revenge of the Sith and everything that went down there. But Kylo Ren had thoughts of turning to the dark side.
Hang on.
He never even had a chat with him. We can't do, dude.
No,
It's after
Chris,
midnight. I've got to
we're
get
not
to
doing. I like you were
Me
so fucking selective with that scene, and I need to point out your opinion, your review of that movie. So many points you make rely on you getting details wrong, and that scene is quintessential.
What, that he attempts to murder his nephew?
Exactly,
Based
because he
based on
doesn't
a notion
like
that
literally every time you say he tried to kill his nephew, I'm like, but like you're getting details about the movie wrong for the sake of your argument.
he goes in and turns on the lightsaber with a fucking grimace on his face, like a crazed fucking serial killer.
And then, have you seen Idiocracy?
No.
The
fact that even happens.
No, Chris.
Betrays the character.
No,
the fact that even happens in the first place.
That is so in keeping with his character. It is.
Did you watch the OT?
Yeah,
have you seen Star Wars?
I watched him face down the two most evil people in the galaxy, look him in the face and say, I will not fight you. I will not kill you, because that is not Cash Money Jedi of me. And then they're like, we're going to kill everyone you love except for the person you love most, who we're going to turn to the dark side because you have connections. And that's also not very Cash Money Jedi. And then he looks in his nephew's head. He sees that he would bring destruction, pain, and the end of everything he loves.
And never even has a conversation
with him about it. And for the briefest moment of pure instinct, he pulls out the saber and immediately regrets it. He didn't try to have a conversation
over coffee with him?
With the Emperor once the plan was laid. He didn't try to, talk down the Emperor. He tried to murder him. Once Vader said, if you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will. He tried to murder him.
Yeah, it's almost like, character growth between movies. Yeah, he learned that shit in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. There is character growth between movies. Because he doesn't try to murder his nephew.
That's a shitty comparison.
Himself from trying to murder his nephew.
That's a shitty comparison, which you just did.
It is literally the comparison.
No, it's not, because that happened. Yeah, that happened before. And what does he do?
It happened before, and then he improves.
Learned from it.
He literally improves.
He improves until he doesn't in Last Jedi, when he tries to kill his nephew.
Except he doesn't try to kill his nephew. Except, Chris, again, your whole argument is based on getting that detail wrong. End of discussion. He doesn't try to kill his nephew. The whole point of the scene is that he doesn't try to kill his nephew. Like, Kylo is like, the whole point of the scene is Kylo has every reason to think Luke tried to kill him, but he's wrong.
He didn't, but for a second, he pulled that lightsaber out to fucking murder him. For a second, he did.
Which is a major improvement over the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, it's almost like, that bit where he looks down at his hand and realizes what he's becoming, and he throws the lightsaber away. It's like, that didn't happen. Let's just take him back to that moment. Like, he didn't actually learn anything from that moment. So great. Love it. Absolutely love it. He couldn't even have a conversation with him.
Wait a second. If he didn't learn anything from that moment, why is Ben alive?
But what do you mean?
Ben was at his mercy. If he was really if he learned nothing from that moment, Ben would be dead. He would not have stopped himself. It would have lasted a lot longer. The
point that the lightsaber was ignited with a fucking grimace. That moment, you're saying like, yeah, but he didn't kill him. I'm like, okay, if I stood over your bed with a loaded pistol...
No. Again, now you're getting details of my argument wrong to reinforce your argument. I'm not saying he didn't kill him. I'm saying he didn't even try to kill him.
He pulls out the lightsaber, ignites it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then uses it to defend himself against Ben, because Ben then swings at him, thinking that Luke is there to kill him. Except he's wrong, because Luke doesn't take a swing at Ben. At no point does Luke try to kill Ben. End of discussion.
If I stood over your bed with a loaded gun and pointed it at your fucking head while you slept...
But then
I didn't shoot you.
No, Chris, you didn't point it at my head. You did.
This is so fucking laughable.
Sorry.
This is so low.
If I woke up to this,
Oh, you can tell he's from America, right?
If I woke up to that sound and I saw you there holding a gun, not pointed at me, you're just looking at your gun, I'd freak the fuck out. But you didn't try to kill me. You didn't. You literally did not try to kill me in the scenario I just described. Like, we're...
Well,
like
here's
to
that's
say
that's the disconnect. That's the disconnect, right?
like
there.
if I
That's
said that you tried to kill me in that scenario, that's blatant hyperbole. It's not true. Like, you didn't. Like, we're not like, do you know what the word try means? Or do you just know do or do not? Because it sounds
Yeah.
like you just know do or do not.
But I was actually going to mention this. If there was going to be any video that gets us cancelled, he's held a sword, a gun, and we've talked about rape in this stream for like a good half hour. Like, YouTube's just we're not even monetized, but like we've got a knife now as well. How many weapons is he going to show per stream with from medieval weaponry to urban combat?
Oh my god. Okay, it's midnight for you. We really should be winding this down. We should have winded this down 40
We
minutes
really
ago.
should. This is why I never want to get into a fucking Last Jedi debate, but here we are.
Brinsley
Brinsley says he missed. Oh, there we go. He's expressing his right to the Second Amendment, as is your want.
A different gun. Okay, no, we can't. Give me something to point to.
Hang on, you need the pistol from Batman '89 with like the super fucking long barrel.
Yeah, that's probably either really accurate because of the barrel or insanely inaccurate because of the handle.
From here on in, because I'm going to be back to full-time work next week, can we just keep it like focused on Andor, please, with no like sequel trilogy tangents? Because we know we're going to do this shit. Where can people find you, dude?
You can find me at youtube.com/JXEditor. And go. Oh, you were too...
That's too fast.
All right. You fucking face. All right. Yeah, I recently released an edit of the Clone Wars as a movie, where it's just meant to be the perfect before movie for Revenge of the Sith. So if you're going to the theaters to watch Revenge of the Sith, I recommend checking that out. But I've been JX.
And I've been Chris.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much. I did want to end it there, but I do want to bring this up. That's pretty good.
I get it. All right.
I think we'll end it on Bath Time's dad joke right there.
And also, SeaWorld Man likes my logic.
He likes the cut of your jib. If you like what you see here and you want to hear us talk more about Andor, then we will be back next Thursday, where hopefully we won't have like an hour-long Last Jedi tangent. But there we go. It's all about Star Wars, but we will be talking about episodes 4, 5, and 6. Very much looking forward to seeing how this series shapes up. Please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. I will be live again actually on Saturday night with Dale after we're back from the 4DX experience of Revenge of the Sith. We're gearing up for the 20th anniversary, and it's going to be my first 4DX experience at the cinema. And I think it'll be a pretty great film to do it to. So I'm going to be watching that Saturday, and we should have a review for you guys. I think it's just really going to be talking about the actual experience rather than the film itself, because we already have a review for that on the channel. And then in a few weeks' time, JX, I'll be joined with yourself once again, and we'll be talking about Revenge of the Sith a little bit more, won't we? So
yes. Oh, Michael, would you please pass me the book right next to you?
Here we go. Here's a little bit of a sneak peek.
I found my copy.
There we go. So we're going to be doing a Revenge of the Sith video where we compare the novelization to the movie and some of the changes. For anyone who doesn't know, the novelization is based on the original script, where it was the sort of like the full uncut version of Revenge of the Sith.
It was also edited as they went if things were removed for canonicity purposes, then they're not in the book. But if they're removed for pacing, they're probably still in the book.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in tonight, kept the conversation going. We really appreciate you guys. And we hope to see you all back for next week for more Andor. Take care, everyone.
Good stuff.